Hey, my stuff got delivered to my parents' house. What's going on? Did you get the packages? I want you to leave, so I sent all your things there. Why are you saying this all of a sudden? I have a girlfriend. I've decided to leave you and marry her. What? Isn't that cheating? She's younger than you and doesn't nag. She's exactly my type. She's a complete upgrade from you. You don't stand a chance. Do you understand that what you're doing is cheating? Also, I'm about to have a baby any day now. I get it. You want me to take responsibility, right? I'll pay for the affair and child support. Is $220,000 or $40,000 enough for the affair and $1,000 a month for child support? While I was at my parents' house to give birth, my husband sent my stuff there. He didn't even try to hide his affair. For my high-income, elite husband, paying for the affair and child support isn't a big deal as long as he can marry his girlfriend. I'll give you more details later. I'll keep the house and live there with her. Don't come back. I believe there must be a God. Surely, God would punish my husband. Fine, I don't need you. Let's get divorced quickly. Yeah, I got it. I'll contact you soon. Thank you, I appreciate it. I don't want any more trouble. Right, I'm glad we can get divorced without any fuss. My husband misunderstood my final words of gratitude. I believe he will face difficulties soon. The house he said he'd take to live with his girlfriend. Actually, I'm Anna. I'm 29, and I work at a company. I'm shy and not exceptionally skilled at my job. Because of that, I thought of myself as a background character in society. But as I approached 30, my life took a dramatic turn. There aren't many good places near our office. There are good places, but they're either too small or too far from the station. It's hard to find one that fits our needs. I'm searching for a house with Ken, who will soon be my husband. We pore over materials from real estate agents and online listings, struggling to find the right place. Even though it's a hassle, I secretly enjoy looking for a house while snuggled up next to Ken. I always try hard to look seriously worried instead of letting my happiness show on my face. I'm at the peak of happiness. I'll give you more details later. I'll keep the house and live there with her. Don't come back. I believe there must be a God. Surely, God would punish my husband. Fine, I don't need you. Let's get divorced quickly. Yeah, I got it. I'll contact you soon. Thank you, I appreciate it. I don't want any more trouble. Right, I'm glad we can get divorced without any fuss. My husband misunderstood my final words of gratitude. I believe he will face difficulties soon. The house he said he'd take to live with his girlfriend. Actually, I'm Anna, 29 years old, and I work at a company. I'm shy and not particularly skilled at my job, so I often felt like a background character in society. But as I approached 30, my life took a dramatic turn. There aren't many good places near our office. The good ones are either too small or too far from the station. It's hard to find one that fits our needs. I'm searching for a house with Ken, who will soon be my husband. We pore over materials from real estate agents and online listings, struggling to find the right place. Even though it's a hassle, I secretly enjoy looking for a house while snuggled up next to Ken. I try hard to look seriously worried instead of letting my happiness show on my face. I'm at the peak of happiness. But when I said my life took a dramatic turn, I wasn't just talking about getting married. Marrying Ken, who works at a prestigious international company, added a big twist to my life. We live in different worlds, but we met through mutual friends, and surprisingly, Ken approached me first. I still can't believe it, so I often ask him, "Hey, what did you see in someone like me again?" Your modesty. Nowadays, a lot of women are strong and assertive, but I'm not into that. Ken always looks obviously annoyed when I ask the same thing repeatedly, but I love that he always gives me the same answer, even if he looks annoyed. When Ken calls me modest, he's talking about my shy nature. He initially approached me simply because he liked my looks. When I first heard that, I thought it was a bit rude, but over time he grew to appreciate my modesty. Given how happy I am now, I can forgive his rude comments. In contrast, what drew me to Ken was his decisive and confident nature. Keep gathering info on properties, and did you tell the wedding planner about the changes to the menu? I'm planning to call about the menu tomorrow. What? You haven't told them yet? Handle the important stuff promptly. Yeah, I'll be careful. Ken sighed and began tidying up the property materials. He often delegates various tasks to me, and perhaps because of his elite status, he sometimes talks down to me. We're not married yet, but is this what they call a dominant husband? Some people might find it hard to believe. but for a shy person like me, it's actually easier when someone directs me on what to do. That's why I believe Ken and I are a good match. As the wedding day quickly approaches, we still haven't found a place to live. Since we didn't live together before getting married, we really wanted to start living together right after the wedding. But since that seems difficult, we made a decision. We thought we'd rent until we had kids, but maybe we should just buy that house. Yeah, that seems the most realistic. Ken picked up one of the property brochures and placed it on the table. This house is nearly 40 years old, surrounded by newer houses. It has been unsold for some time. It's well maintained for its age, but it needs some work before it's comfortable to live in. All right, we'll buy this house and renovate it right. Considering the renovation time, it won't be ready by the wedding, but it meets all our needs in terms of location and size. But are we okay to buy a house so suddenly? We're fine. Leave it to me. Ken looked confident. Most wives would be anxious if their husbands suddenly wanted to buy a house impulsively, but Ken's income is high and I also work, so it's not unreasonable. So we decided to buy a house right after getting married. Following my marriage, we even bought a house, and the elements of happiness were piling up at a faster and faster pace as if they were crushing my body. However, buying this house would later lead to an unexpected situation. After deciding to buy the house, we also had to find a contractor for the renovation. Of course, finding a contractor was my job. Since we'd be living there for a long time, I carefully searched for a contractor. However, with the wedding so close, Ken seemed to be getting impatient. Hey, did you find a contractor? Give me a little more time. I'm still looking. You're always so slow, but it's important. If I leave it to you, we'd never be able to live in the house. I'll handle finding a contractor. All right, I'm sorry. As usual, while discussing our wedding and future life in Ken's room, he got angry with me. I felt bad for causing trouble by not finding a contractor and couldn't say anything in return. Once Ken started looking, he arranged everything within a few days, and the renovation began the following week. He's really efficient, as expected from someone of his caliber. With his speed, it's no wonder he finds me slow. While the house was being renovated, we had our wedding without any issues. Since the house wasn't ready, I moved into Ken's place. I was a little disappointed that we couldn't start our newlywed life in our new home, but then a different kind of happiness came our way. Ken, I think I might be pregnant. Really? Ken was overjoyed, bouncing around like a kid. We thought we wouldn't rush into having kids, but I didn't expect it to happen so soon. I felt the same way. We figured we'd have kids eventually and we're just going with the flow, so discovering I was pregnant right after the wedding was a surprise. I'm glad we decided to buy the house. 2 months after the wedding, the renovation was finally complete and we could move in together. It was so run down, but now it looks amazing, right? With a baby on the way, it was a good purchase. I hurried around our still sparsely furnished home, excited about starting our married life for real. But 3 months after moving into our house, Ken and I ended up living apart. Hey, did you check on that creaky floor in the hallway? No, not yet. I'll call a contractor tomorrow. But aren't you 8 months pregnant now? Use your vacation days and go to your parents' house early. What? I told you I'm planning to take maternity leave 6 weeks before. It'll be tough to move around in another month. Go now while you can. Okay, got it. When Ken suggested I go back to my parents' house early, it made me slow down, lingering over my dinner. We had already discussed and decided on having the baby at my parents' house, and the handover of my work for maternity leave was progressing smoothly, so taking leave a bit early wasn't a problem. But I wanted to spend as much time as possible with Ken at home. I thought Ken felt the same, so it was a bit of a shock when he told me to leave early. Still, I decided to follow his advice. The next week, I went back to my parents' house to prepare for the birth. Well, take care of the house. Yeah, don't worry about it. By the way, about the kitchen wall. Don't worry. I told you I lived alone for a long time. I can handle the housework. No, I mean the window frame too. All right, I'll take care of everything. Ken seemed to think I was being too persistent, so he gently pushed me out the front door. As I turned back, Ken was waving with a smile. I trusted that Ken would handle things well and decided to leave the house in his care. Mom, Dad, I'm home. Welcome back. It must have been tough, right? Not really. I'm okay. When I arrived, Mom greeted me at the entrance. Feeling a bit awkward about her concern, I averted my gaze. I didn't want to admit that I had spent $200 on a taxi from the house to here. Oh, you're back. Was it tough? No, not really. In the living room, Dad was there. I averted my gaze again at his words. Needless to say, my parents' house is comfortable. At home, Ken tends to be a bit domineering, and I did most of the housework, but here I just help out a bit. My parents are still in their late 50s, so they both work. Mom works part-time and comes home in the early afternoon, so I'm alone in the morning. I spend that time slowly cleaning and doing laundry for exercise. In the afternoon, Mom takes care of the house, so I have nothing to do. Having nothing to do feels oddly unsettling, so I end up following Mom around looking for ways to help. I want to call Ken and catch up on things, but ever since I came back home, he hasn't contacted me much or visited. Has Ken called you back yet? No, he hasn't returned any of my calls. I really need to talk to him. I wonder if something's wrong. He hasn't visited in a month. I'm worried. He's probably just enjoying his freedom and focusing on work since I'm not there. Mom peeled an apple, looking worried. I gratefully ate the apple she gave me. Mom is probably imagining negative things like Ken being sick or having an affair. But Ken is a capable professional, and we're about to have a baby, so I thought there was no way he could be sick or cheating. I soon realized how naive that thought was. One afternoon, while Mom and I were watching TV, the doorbell rang. Who is it? Looks like a delivery. It wasn't unusual to get a package, but Mom looked confused as she went to the door. I waited in the living room. I could faintly hear Mom talking to a delivery man, but couldn't make out the words. After a while, Mom came back, looking worried and flustered. Hey, your stuff from your house is here. What's going on? What? What do you mean? I didn't understand what she was saying and could only repeat her question back to her. I slowly stood up to check the situation and headed toward the packages that had arrived. What's this? What's going on? When I stepped outside, there was a moving truck loaded with boxes. I opened one of the boxes and found my clothes inside. I opened another box, and it also contained my clothes. It looked like all the boxes were filled with my belongings from our house. I didn't understand the situation, but since the packages had arrived, I had no choice but to accept them. We pushed all the boxes into an empty room at my parents' house. The room was completely filled with boxes. After seeing the movers off, I called Ken in front of the delivered packages. I didn't expect him to answer, as he usually didn't, but this time he picked up right away. Hey, my stuff was delivered to my parents' house. What's going on? Did the packages arrive? I decided I want you out of the house, so I sent all your stuff there. What? Why are you saying this all of a sudden? Well, I have a girlfriend. I decided to leave you and marry her. What? He called her his girlfriend, but that meant he was cheating, openly declaring it to me, his wife. I couldn't comprehend what he was saying, and I started feeling dizzy. Isn't that cheating? Well, yeah, I guess. We started dating before the wedding. Guys can get cold feet too, you know. She was kind to me when I was struggling, and we started seeing each other. I couldn't call off the wedding, so I married you, but I couldn't give her up. When I lived with her in her house this past month, I realized she's better than you, so I decided to divorce you. Living with her? You mean she's been staying in our house for the past month? Calling her a mistress is disrespectful. She's my fiancée now. She's a mistress because I'm still here. My vision, which had been spinning, suddenly cleared, and I found myself yelling at Ken. My mom, who was listening to the call, looked extremely worried when she heard the word cheating. Not wanting to upset her any further, I forced myself to calm down. You told me to go back to my parents' house early so you could live with her, right? That's right. She's younger than you, not as slow, and exactly my type. She's a complete upgrade from you. You don't stand a chance. Do you understand that what you're doing is cheating? And I'm about to have a baby any day now. I get it. You want me to take responsibility, right? I'll pay for the affair and child support. Is $20,000 or $40,000 for the affair and $1,000 a month for child support enough? Even over the phone, I could imagine the smug look on Ken's face. Ken is an elite and high-income earner. Paying for the affair and child support probably didn't seem like much to him if it meant he could marry his girlfriend. In contrast, I'm a nobody. There's no way I could stop Ken from divorcing me for her, so I had no choice but to accept the divorce. As much as I wanted to refuse the alimony and child support out of pride, as a regular employee, I needed the money. It was a bitter pill to swallow. I gripped my phone tightly out of frustration and shame. That's the deal. The divorce is final, and I'll give you more details later. I'm keeping the house and living there with her, so don't come back. I thought to myself that there must be a God, and surely God would punish Ken. Fine, I don't want anything to do with you. Let's get divorced quickly. Yeah, I got it. I'll contact you soon. Thanks, that helps. I don't want any more trouble. Right, I'm glad we can get divorced without any fuss. After hanging up, Mom looked at me with concern. I smiled to reassure her. Ken misunderstood my final words of gratitude. I believed that he would face some trouble soon. 3 months later, I gave birth to a healthy baby girl named Maya and was still at my parents' house. She was so adorable that I couldn't bear to be apart from her, even though I needed to start looking for a place before my maternity leave ended. The divorce was finalized, and Ken agreed to pay for the affair and child support. I had no lingering feelings for my ex-husband. In fact, I felt refreshed after the divorce. Since we already settled everything, I thought I'd never have to deal with him again. But suddenly, he called me. He must have finally realized the situation. Hey, what's going on? What do you mean? The house. You mentioned something about the floors and walls, didn't you? Did you know about this? Yes, I knew. You hired a shady contractor for the renovation. Why didn't you tell me? I tried to, but you never returned my calls because you were too busy having fun with your girlfriend. Besides, I told you about the creaky floors before I left for my parents' house and asked you to check it out, but you were too focused on getting me out of the house quickly to listen seriously. Ken thought I was too slow in finding a contractor, so he took over the task. When he started looking, he quickly found someone and began the renovations. I was impressed with how efficient he was, but it turns out he chose the contractor based solely on price without checking reviews or reputation. So he ended up hiring a shady contractor. After living in the house for just 3 months, I noticed the floors creaking, cracks in the kitchen wall, and screws missing from the window frames. After moving back to my parents' house, I looked into the contractor and found out they were scammers. I tried to contact Ken to tell him, but he never returned my calls, and we ended up getting divorced before I could tell him. Because of you, the response was delayed, and now I'm having disputes with the contractor. They're blaming us, saying we lived in the house wrong for 6 months, causing the damage. The creaky floors, growing wall cracks, and poorly closing doors have all gotten worse. The house is a mess. That sounds like a terrible place to live. I've moved into an apartment to get out of the house. If I stayed, they'd keep blaming us for the damage. I'm talking to a lawyer, but for some reason, it looks bad for us. Still, I'm going to sue them. So your house is falling apart, and you're going to court. That sounds tough, but it's not my problem anymore. Is that why you called? That's right. If you'd have told me about the shady contractor sooner, this might not have happened. So what? I mean, I'll keep paying $500 a month in child support, but can we lower the monthly payments for the $20,000 alimony? What? I was shocked that my elite, prideful ex-husband was suddenly asking me for a favor about money. We moved, right? So now I've got the land, house renovation loans, and apartment rent. I'm going to sue the contractor, but I don't know how that'll go, and there are lawyer fees. I might even have to pay for the house repairs myself. You said your wife is better at her job than I am. Doesn't she make a decent income? Actually, she was my colleague at work. I told everyone at the company that we got married after I divorced you, but apparently, there were rumors about us before that. So now people at work are giving us the cold shoulder. Yeah, she couldn't take it and changed jobs, which cut her salary drastically. I can't afford to switch jobs too, so I stayed. But money is tight. Ken had hired the shady contractor himself and was now having a huge dispute. His affair had damaged his standing at work. It was a classic case of self-inflicted trouble. Despite his high income, he was just over 30, and all these expenses were tough to manage. But it was his own fault, and it had nothing to do with me. It sounds tough, but you need to keep your promise. Wait a minute. I hung up on Ken. His voice just before the call ended sounded pitiful, not at all like the elite man he once was. Feeling a bit down after hearing his voice, I spent some time watching my daughter sleep. In the end, Ken lost the case about the defective house. The shady contractor managed to avoid any consequences, likely due to their knowledge of loopholes and deceit. It seems that even the elite, as expected, were not able to meet the vices of the corrupt contractor. Ken wanted to repair the house, but there were too many hidden issues, and the costs were too high. Naturally, he didn't want to live in a house with so many problems. He ended up selling the house. Since it was full of defects, the building had no value, so he sold just the land after demolishing the house. The land sold, but the loan remained, leaving my ex-husband with debt. With the house issue resolved, he decided to change jobs. He figured the debt was manageable even with a lower income, so he left his uncomfortable workplace. However, his fall from grace didn't stop there. His new wife, who had to deal with the huge house trouble right after they got married, and the fallout of their affair being exposed at work, blamed him for everything. Their relationship deteriorated, and she eventually left him. Now my ex-husband lives alone in an apartment with a lower income from his new job and monthly payments for his debt, alimony, and child support. His once luxurious life as an elite is now a life of frugality. He foolishly pursued an affair, losing his money, house, and family in the process. Love is indeed blind. I plan to start looking for an apartment for my daughter and me soon. When I talked to my company about my child, they agreed to let me work shorter hours, but I don't need to change jobs. I'm grateful for that. Returning to work will be challenging, so I intend to fully enjoy the precious time with my adorable daughter while I can.
The sound of Andrea's wine glass hitting my antique mahogany table made my fingers twitch. She'd been doing it all evening. That deliberate, sharp tap, tap, tap that screamed for attention. I caught her eye across the family dinner table, and there it was, that smirk I'd grown to despise since Jermaine's passing 6 months ago. My name is Paris, and this was supposed to be a simple Sunday dinner, but nothing had been simple since I lost my husband. This house has such potential, Andrea announced, swirling her red wine. Just imagine what it could be with the right updates. Her eyes swept across the living room, past the family photos Jermaine and I had carefully arranged over our 15 years together. I stabbed my fork into the roasted chicken I'd spent hours preparing. The house is perfect as it is. Oh, honey. Andrea's patronizing tone made my best friend Brooke shift uncomfortably beside me. You can't possibly maintain this place on your own. I mean, look at that wallpaper in the foyer. It's practically screaming for a renovation. The wallpaper Jermaine and I had picked out together during our first year of marriage. I took a slow sip of water, willing my voice to stay steady. I managed just fine. For now, Andrea said, her voice dripping with false concern. She turned to her husband, Tom. Remember what Mom always said about this place? How it should stay in the family? The table grew quiet. Even the clinking of silverware stopped. Andrea, Greta, my older sister, warned from the other end of the table. But Andrea was on a roll. Let's be realistic here. She leaned forward, her designer bracelet catching the light. Once you're gone, this house will be mine. It's what Jermaine would have wanted, keeping it in the blood family. The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Brooke's hand found mine under the table, squeezing gently. Jermaine's wishes, I repeated, my voice barely above a whisper. That's interesting, considering the conversations we had before he passed. Andrea's perfectly plucked eyebrows drew together. What conversations? I stood up, my chair scraping against the hardwood floor. Would anyone like coffee? I just got a new French press. I'll help, Eliza, my neighbor, quickly offered. She followed me into the kitchen, closing the door behind us. You okay? She whispered, reaching for the coffee beans. I gripped the counter, letting out a shaky breath. You know what Jermaine told me right before? My voice caught. He said, Paris, don't let them change what we built. Promise me. Eliza touched my arm. Then don't. Back in the dining room, Andrea was holding court. It's just practical thinking. A single woman living in this huge house. It doesn't make sense. What doesn't make sense, I said, setting down the coffee tray with deliberate care, is assuming you know anything about what Jermaine wanted. I'm his sister, Andrea shot back. I knew him his whole life. And I was his wife. I poured coffee into Greta's cup, my hand steady despite the rage building inside me. The person he chose to build a life with. The one he trusted with everything. Everything. Andrea's laugh was sharp. Please, you were just the girl he married. This house, it's Miller family history. It belongs with us. I thought about the documents sitting in my study upstairs. The ones Jermaine and I had prepared with Walter, our family lawyer, months before his diagnosis. The ones that would wipe that smug look off Andrea's face. "More coffee, Andrea?" I asked sweetly. She pushed her cup forward. "You know I'm right, Paris. Deep down, you know this house will be mine once you're gone. It's inevitable." I smiled, thinking of the shelter plans hidden in my desk drawer. The women whose lives would change because of Jermaine's vision, our vision. We'll see about that. Later, after everyone had left, I stood in the foyer, running my fingers over the wallpaper Andrea had criticized. Jermaine and I had spent 3 weekends putting it up, laughing at our amateur attempts, celebrating with takeout pizza on the floor. My phone buzzed, a text from Brooke. "You okay? That was intense." I typed back, "Better than okay. It's almost time." Upstairs in my study, I pulled out the folder marked Future Plans. Inside were the documents that would change everything, the proof that Jermaine and I had been planning this for years. Andrea thought she knew everything about her brother, but she had no idea what was coming. I traced Jermaine's signature on the last page, remembering his words. "Make it count, Paris. Show them what real family means." Oh, I would, and Andrea wouldn't know what hit her. The morning after the disastrous dinner, I met Eliza at our usual coffee spot downtown. She arrived with a stack of papers tucked under her arm, her lawyer face on. "I've reviewed everything," she said, sliding into the booth. "The documentation is solid, Paris. Andrea won't be able to touch it." I wrapped my hands around my coffee mug, letting the warmth seep into my fingers. But we need to move fast. The sooner we file these papers, the better." The bell above the cafe door chimed, and I tensed as Brooke rushed in, her face flushed. "You won't believe what I just heard," she said, dropping into the seat beside me. "Andrea's been making calls to real estate agents." "Already?" My stomach clenched. "The body's barely cold, and she's—" "Paris." Eliza's firm voice cut through my rising anger. "Focus. We need to talk about the letter." I pulled the envelope from my purse, the one Jermaine had given to Walter to hold until after his death. I'd received it yesterday morning, but hadn't found the courage to open it yet. "Read it," Brooke urged, squeezing my hand. My fingers trembled as I broke the seal. "My dearest Paris, if you're reading this, then I'm gone, and knowing my sister, she's probably already circling like a vulture." Remember that night we sat on the porch swing, talking about turning the house into something more? That wasn't just a dream, it was our legacy. I've left everything prepared with Walter. The house isn't just a building, Paris. It's hope, it's shelter, it's everything we believed in. Don't let Andrea's greed destroy that. All my love, Jermaine. "Damn," Brooke whispered, wiping her eyes. He knew exactly what would happen. "He knew his sister," I said, carefully folding the letter, "and he trusted me to finish what we started." Eliza spread out the shelter plans on the table. "These blueprints are perfect. The conversion will be minimal. Mostly just adding security systems and updating the bathrooms. We can have it ready within months." "Andrea will lose it when she finds out," Brooke said, studying the plans. "That's what worries me," I admitted. "She's not going to go down without a fight." The cafe door opened again, and we quickly gathered the papers as Greta walked in. She spotted us and made her way over, her expression serious. "We need to talk," she said, sliding into the booth. "Andrea's been asking questions about your finances, Paris. She's trying to build a case that you can't afford the property taxes." "Of course she is." I pulled out my phone and showed them the text I'd received that morning from Walter. "Meeting set for Thursday. Bringing all documentation. Stay strong." "Thursday?" Eliza's eyebrows shot up. "That's perfect timing. The family gathering is Saturday." "Exactly." I allowed myself a small smile. "Andrea wants to play chess? Fine, but she doesn't know all the pieces on the board." "Paris," Greta leaned forward, her voice low, "are you sure about this? Once you do this, there's no going back. The family will never be the same." "The family changed the moment Andrea started plotting against me," I said. "Besides, Jermaine and I planned this for years. This house was never meant to be just a house." My phone buzzed, a text from Andrea. "Coming by later to discuss the property. Need to talk about practical solutions. She's unbelievable, Brooke muttered, reading over my shoulder. No, I replied, standing up. She's predictable, and that's exactly why this is going to work. I gathered my things, determination settling over me like armor. Eliza, get those papers filed today. Brooke, I need you to make some calls about the shelter permits. Greta, I'll keep my ears open, she nodded. Andrea talks more freely around family. As I walked to my car, another text came through, this one from Walter. Found something interesting in Jermaine's old files. Come to the office ASAP. I smiled, thinking of the look on Andrea's face when she realized just how thoroughly her brother had outmaneuvered her. Jermaine had always said timing was everything, and he was right. The house wasn't just bricks and mortar, it was a promise to help women who needed a fresh start, just like I'd needed one when Jermaine first brought me home. Andrea saw it as a trophy to be won. I saw it as a mission to be fulfilled. Let her come by later. Let her make her threats and demands. Every move she made just brought us closer to the moment when everything would change. I started my car, Jermaine's letter safely tucked against my heart. Watch me, my love, I whispered. Watch me make it count. Walter's office smelled of old leather and coffee when I arrived. He was already pulling files from his cabinet, his reading glasses perched on his nose. Look at this, he said without preamble, spreading documents across his desk. Andrea's been busy. These are inquiries from 3 different real estate agencies, all dated within weeks of Jermaine's passing. I leaned forward, scanning the papers. She's been getting valuations on my house? Your house, Walter emphasized, tapping the deed. And that's not all. She's been asking about Jermaine's life insurance policy, your mortgage status, even your credit history. The door opened, and Walter's assistant poked her head in. Ms. Andrea is here to see you, sir. Walter and I exchanged glances. Perfect timing, he muttered. Paris, the storage room, now. I slipped into the adjoining room just as Andrea's heels clicked across the wooden floor. Through the thin wall, their voices carried clearly. Walter, darling? Andrea's sugary tone made my teeth ache. I need information about my brother's estate. Everything's been settled according to the will, Andrea. Paris is the legal owner of the house. Yes, but surely there are options. Paris is struggling, anyone can see that. It would be kinder to help her move on, downsize to something more manageable. Walter's chair creaked. And I suppose you have a solution in mind? I've had several offers already, excellent ones. The market's hot right now, and that neighborhood is very desirable. If Paris sells, Walter's voice sharpened. You seem very invested in property that isn't yours. That house belongs in the family. Real family. Not some charity case Jermaine married out of pity. My hands clenched into fists, but Walter's response was calm. Careful, Andrea. That charity case is your brother's widow and the legal owner of the property. For now. Andrea's voice dropped, but we both know she can't afford the upkeep. The property taxes alone are none of your concern. Walter's tone was final. Now, if there's nothing else? After Andrea left, I emerged from the storage room, shaking with anger. She's been showing my house to buyers. She's been trying to, Walter corrected, pulling out another folder. But that's not what I called you here for. Look at this. He handed me a document dated 3 years ago. As I read, my eyes widened. Jermaine knew, I whispered. He knew she'd try something like this. Your husband was a smart man. Walter smiled. And he left us everything we need. My phone buzzed. A text from Eliza. Documents filed. Also, you need to see this. Attached was a screenshot of Andrea's social media post. Family dinner this Saturday. Time to discuss some exciting changes for the old Miller house. She's planning something for Saturday, I said, showing Walter the post. So are we. He handed me another envelope. These are the final shelter proposals. Everything's ready. I drove home, my mind racing. Andrea's car was in my driveway, and she was sitting on my porch like she owned it. We need to talk, she said as I approached. No, we don't. I moved to pass her, but she blocked my path. I have buyers ready to go. 7 figures, Paris. Think about it. You could start fresh somewhere else. I met her gaze. Like Jermaine wanted me to start fresh somewhere else when you tried the same thing 15 years ago. She blinked. What? Oh, you didn't think I knew about that. How you tried to convince him I was only after his money. How you showed him photos of me with my ex, claiming I was cheating. Colour drained from her face. He told you. He told me everything, and he left me everything I need to protect what we built. You're bluffing, she said, but uncertainty crept into her voice. Saturday's dinner should be interesting, I replied, finally pushing past her to unlock my door. Hope you're ready for some exciting changes. This isn't over, she called after me. You're right about that, I muttered, closing the door in her face. Inside, I leaned against the wall, heart pounding. My phone buzzed again, Brooke this time. Shelter permits approved, we're good to go. I looked at the family photo on the wall, at Jermaine's smiling face. He'd known this day would come, had prepared for it, had trusted me to see it through. Saturday couldn't come fast enough. Andrea thought she was orchestrating some grand takeover, but she had no idea she was walking right into our trap. I touched the documents in my bag, thinking of all the women who would soon find sanctuary here. The house will be yours once I'm gone? I whispered, remembering Andrea's words. We'll see about that. 3 days before the family dinner, Greta showed up at my door with a box of old photographs and a worried expression. You need to see this, she said, pushing past me into the living room. She spread the photos across the coffee table, pointing to one in particular. Remember this? The photograph showed Jermaine and me on our wedding day, but in the background, partially obscured, was Andrea holding what looked like papers. Those documents she's holding, Greta's voice dropped. They're the original deed to this house. I overheard her talking to her friend yesterday. She's planning to claim Jermaine promised her the house before he met you. I picked up the photo, studying it closer. She's really getting desperate, isn't she? The doorbell rang again. This time it was Brooke and Eliza, both looking flushed with excitement. We found something huge, Brooke announced, pulling out her tablet. Andrea's been hiding financial troubles, big ones. Eliza nodded, sitting down. She's underwater on her own mortgage, 3 months behind on payments. That explains the urgency, Greta said. She's not just being spiteful, she needs money. I was about to respond when my phone rang. Walter's name flashed on the screen. Paris, he said without preamble. Andrea just left my office. She's claiming to have written proof that Jermaine promised her the house. Says she's presenting it at Saturday's dinner. Let me guess. Dated before our wedding? Exactly. She's getting sloppy, Paris. Desperate people make mistakes. After hanging up, I turned to find 3 pairs of eyes watching me expectantly. We need to move up our timeline, I said. Eliza, how fast can you get those shelter permits processed? Already done, she replied. But there's something else. I found an old letter in the courthouse records, from your mother-in-law to Jermaine, written just before she died. My heart skipped. What did it say? She knew what Andrea was like. She specifically asked Jermaine to keep the house away from her, said Andrea would destroy everything good about it. The front door opened, and we all jumped. It was Tom, Andrea's husband, looking uncomfortable. Paris, he said, hovering in the doorway. I need to tell you something. Andrea, she's been forging documents. The room went silent. Tom shifted nervously. I found them in her office. Practice sheets trying to copy Jermaine's signature. She's planning to present a fake promise letter at the dinner. Why are you telling me this? I asked, studying his face. Because Jermaine was my friend too. And because... He pulled out his phone, showing us a text thread. She's been lying to me about everything. The house, the money, all of it. Greta stood up. Tom, we need you to tell us everything. For the next hour, Tom revealed Andrea's entire plan. The forged documents, the potential buyers, who didn't actually exist, the manufactured evidence of my supposed financial troubles. She's presenting everything at dinner, he finished. She thinks she has everyone convinced. Perfect, I said, surprising them all. Let her present her case. Let her show everyone exactly who she is. Paris, Brooke warned. That's risky. No, Eliza interrupted, catching on. It's brilliant. Let her commit to the lies publicly. Then we show everyone the truth, I finished. All of it. I went to my study and returned with a small wooden box. The one Jermaine had given me on our last anniversary. What's that? Greta asked. I opened it, revealing a USB drive and a stack of letters. Insurance. Jermaine knew his sister better than anyone. He kept records of everything. Every threat, every scheme, every attempt to undermine our marriage. Including the time she tried to break us up? Tom asked quietly. I nodded. Everything. My phone buzzed with a text from Andrea. Hope you're ready for Saturday. Time to face reality. I showed the others, and Brooke laughed. She has no idea what's coming, does she? No, I smiled, touching the wooden box. She doesn't. As everyone left, Greta hung back. Are you sure about this? Once you do this, there's no going back. The family will be torn apart. I looked at the wedding photo again, at Andrea's scheming face in the background. Andrea tore this family apart long ago, Greta. I'm just going to make sure everyone finally sees it. The truth would cost us all something, but as Jermaine always said, some prices are worth paying. Saturday would change everything, and I was ready. Let Andrea bring her forged documents and fake promises. I had something better, I had the truth, and it was time to set it free. Friday night's family meeting was Andrea's idea. A casual gathering before the big dinner tomorrow, she'd said. But as everyone filed into my living room, the tension was anything but casual. I thought we could all discuss the future of the house, Andrea announced, perching on the edge of my favorite armchair like she already owned it. As a family. Funny, I said, setting down a tray of coffee. I didn't realize my house was up for discussion. Our house, Andrea corrected sweetly. The Miller family house. Eliza, who'd insisted on being present as my lawyer, cleared her throat. Perhaps we should clarify the legal status. Oh, let's not get technical, Andrea interrupted, pulling out a folder. I have something more important to share. I caught Tom shifting uncomfortably on the couch, his eyes fixed on the folder. He knew what was coming. I found this in Jermaine's old things, Andrea continued, removing a letter. Dated 3 months before he met Paris. The paper trembled slightly in her hands as she read, Dear Andrea, you've always loved this house as much as I have. When the time comes, I want you to have it. It should stay in the family. Brooke snorted. Convenient timing. It's his signature, Andrea insisted, passing the letter around. You all know his handwriting. I sipped my coffee, watching as the letter made its way through the room. When it reached Greta, she studied it carefully. Interesting, Greta said. The ink looks remarkably fresh for a 15-year-old letter. Andrea's cheeks flushed. Well, I had to make a copy. The original was damaged. Of course it was, I murmured. The point is, Andrea pressed on, Jermaine wanted this house preserved as a family home, not turned into some shelter. The room went silent. I set down my cup slowly. How did you know about the shelter plans? Andrea's face paled slightly. I heard rumors. From going through my office, I asked, or from hiring that private investigator to dig through my papers. That's ridiculous, she sputtered. I would never. The investigator's name is Marcus, I cut in. He came to me last week, very apologetic. Seems his conscience got the better of him. Eliza pulled out her phone, playing a recorded conversation. Yeah, Ms. Andrea hired me to find dirt on her sister-in-law. Wanted anything that could prove financial instability. Andrea jumped to her feet. That's illegal. You can't record. Marcus recorded it, Eliza corrected, in a one-party consent state, totally legal. This is all very interesting, I said, standing up. But since we're sharing documents, I retrieved my own folder. I have something too. I pulled out a bank statement. This shows multiple withdrawals from your account to various real estate agents. Curious, since you claim to have buyers lined up, but none of these agents have any record of listing appointments. You went through my bank records. Andrea's voice rose. No need, Tom spoke up quietly. I showed them. Andrea whirled on her husband. You what? Enough, Andrea, he said firmly. No more lies. While we're at it, I continued, should we discuss the forged documents on your computer? The ones where you practiced Jermaine's signature? The color drained from Andrea's face. You can't prove. Actually, Eliza interrupted, Tom gave us access to your home office computer. The files are quite clear. Andrea's composure cracked. This house belongs with real family, not some charity case who trapped my brother into marriage. Trapped him, I laughed. Is that what you told yourself when you tried to break us up? When you hired that woman to flirt with him at his office? What? Several voices exclaimed. Oh, yes, I nodded. Jermaine told me everything. He kept records too, Andrea, of every scheme, every plot, every attempt to undermine our marriage. You're lying, she whispered. I pulled out my phone, playing a video. Jermaine's face appeared on the screen, recorded months before his death. Andrea's trying again, Paris. She thinks I don't know about the real estate agents, the plan she's making. But I know my sister. That's why tomorrow, we're meeting with Walter to make sure everything's legally set for the shelter. It's time to secure our legacy, honey. The right way. Andrea sank back into the chair, her face ashen. Tomorrow's dinner should be interesting, I said quietly. Especially when everyone sees what's in Jermaine's actual final letters. As people filed out, shaken and subdued, Andrea remained frozen in the chair. Get out of my house, I said firmly. She looked up, hatred burning in her eyes. This isn't over. You're right, I agreed. Tomorrow it will be. After she left, Brooke hugged me tight. Are you ready for tomorrow? I touched the USB drive in my pocket, the one containing everything we'd need to end this once and for all. More than ready, I replied. It's time everyone knew the truth. Saturday morning brought dark clouds and distant thunder. I was in the kitchen preparing for the dinner when Brooke burst through the back door, soaking wet from the rain. Andrea's called everyone in the family, she said, shaking water from her hair. She's telling them you forged Jermaine's video. I continued chopping vegetables. Let her. Paris, she's saying she has proof that you manipulated the footage, that you're trying to steal her inheritance. The knife paused mid-chop. Did she mention how she got into my email account? Brooke's eyes widened. What? Walter called earlier. Someone tried to access my private emails with Jermaine. The IP address traced back to Andrea's house. The back door opened again, and Eliza rushed in, clutching her briefcase. We have a problem. Andrea's filed an emergency injunction to stop any changes to the property. On what grounds? I asked, wiping my hands. She's claiming mental incompetence. Says Jermaine wasn't in his right mind when he made those final arrangements with you. The thunder crashed closer, making us all jump. My phone rang. It was Walter. Paris, turn on the local news. Now. I grabbed the remote, switching on the kitchen TV. Andrea's face filled the screen, standing outside her real estate office. My brother's widow is attempting to destroy our family's legacy, she was saying, tears in her eyes. This historic home has been in our family for generations, and now she wants to turn it into a transient housing facility. My brother would never have wanted this. She's really doing this, Brooke whispered. My phone buzzed with messages from family members. Is this true? How could you do this to Jermaine's memory? We need to talk. Perfect, I said, surprising both Brooke and Eliza. Perfect? Eliza asked. Paris, she's turning the family against you publicly. No, I smiled, pulling out my phone. She's making sure everyone's watching. I dialed Walter. Move everything up. We're doing it before dinner. Are you sure? He asked. The storm is perfect. Everyone's already on their way here to avoid the weather. Text the family. Emergency meeting at 4 instead of dinner at 6. I turned to Brooke and Eliza. Call Greta and Tom. Tell them it's time. The next few hours were a blur of preparation. By 3:30, the storm was directly overhead and my house was ready. Walter arrived first, carrying a projector and screen. "Everything's set," he said, setting up in the living room. "Are you ready for this?" "I've been ready for 15 years, I replied. The doorbell started ringing as family members arrived, shaking off umbrellas and rain jackets. Andrea came last, flanked by 2 men in suits. "My lawyers," she announced smugly, "just in case." "Perfect," I said again. "Please, everyone sit down." The room was packed. Every family member who'd received Andrea's calls was there, along with her lawyers and our core support group. "Before Andrea continues her public campaign," I began, "there's something you all need to see." Walter dimmed the lights and started the projector. Jermaine's face appeared on the screen, but this wasn't the short clip from yesterday. This was different. "If you're watching this," he began, "then everything I predicted has happened. Andrea, sis, I love you, but I know what you're doing right now. I know because you've done it before." The room went silent except for the storm outside. "Paris and I made plans for this house years ago. Real plans, not the fake documents you're probably waving around right now." Andrea's lawyers shifted uncomfortably. "But this isn't just about the house," Jermaine continued. "This is about the truth. Walter, show them." Walter pressed a button, and documents began appearing on screen. Bank records, emails, photos, all documenting Andrea's schemes over the years. "Oh my God," someone whispered. "The house was never going to be yours, Andrea," Jermaine's voice continued, "because you never understood what it really meant. It's not about property value or family legacy. It's about helping others, like this family helped me." Lightning flashed outside as the final document appeared, the original shelter proposal, dated 5 years ago, signed by both Jermaine and me. "Paris," Jermaine's voice softened, "show them the letter." I stood up, pulling out an envelope I'd never shown anyone. "This," I said, "is what Jermaine wrote the day before he died." Andrea jumped to her feet. "Stop. I forbid." "You forbid nothing." I cut her off. "Not anymore." The storm raged outside, but inside, the truth was finally breaking free. I opened the letter, and as I began to read, Andrea's carefully constructed world started crumbling around her. The letter shook slightly in my hands as I began to read. "To my family, if you're hearing this, then Andrea has done exactly what I knew she would. She's tried to take everything from Paris, just like she's tried to take everything from everyone her entire life. But this time, I was ready. The house you're all sitting in right now, it was never meant to be just a house. When I was 16, this place saved my life. Mum and Dad took in runaways, abused women, anyone who needed shelter. Andrea hated it. She called them parasites, said they were beneath us. But Paris? The first time I told her about Mum and Dad's mission, she cried. She understood, because she'd been one of those women once before I met her. She'd escaped an abusive relationship with nothing but a backpack and hope. "Andrea, I know you're listening. I know about the private investigator you hired last year to dig up Paris's past. You thought you'd find dirt. Instead, you found the truth about why this house matters so much to both of us. Remember when you tried to break us up by showing me those photos of Paris with her ex? You didn't know he was the man she'd run from, the man this house helped her hide from. Paris and I have spent years preparing this place to become a proper shelter. The blueprints are done, the permits are filed, the funding is secured, and it's all legally binding." Andrea's lawyers exchanged glances, shuffling their papers nervously. "But that's not all," I continued reading. "Walter, show them the trust documents." Walter clicked to the next slide, displaying financial records that made Andrea gasp. The house, the trust fund, everything you thought you could claim, it's all been legally transferred to the Shelter Foundation. Paris isn't just the owner, she's the executive director of a fully funded non-profit organization. Thunder crashed outside as Andrea lunged forward. He was sick, he wasn't thinking clearly. "Actually," Walter interrupted, standing up, "these documents were signed and notarized 3 years ago, when Jermaine was in perfect health. I have the medical records to prove it." I kept reading. And Andrea, that trust fund you've been counting on, the one you've already spent in your head, I've donated it all to the shelter's operational costs. Every penny. No, Andrea whispered, sinking back into her chair. You can't. I can, and I did, Jermaine's words continued, because some things are more important than greed. Some things are about legacy, the real kind, not the kind you can sell to the highest bidder. The room was dead silent except for the storm outside and Andrea's ragged breathing. Paris, I read the final paragraphs, my voice steady. I know you'll make this work. You understand what this house means, what it can do. You lived it. And now you'll help others live it too. To my family, support her, help her. Be the people Mom and Dad raised us to be. And Andrea, I forgive you, but I won't let you hurt anyone else. Love, Jermaine. I folded the letter as Andrea's lawyers stood up, gathering their things. Miss Andrea, one said quietly, we'll be withdrawing our services. The injunction was filed under false pretenses. You can't, Andrea screamed, jumping to her feet. I'll pay you double. With what money? Tom asked softly. You've spent everything we had on this vendetta. Andrea spun toward him. Shut up, just shut up. No, he said, standing. I'm done being quiet. I'm done watching you destroy people. The shelter opens next month, I announced to the room. Anyone who wants to help is welcome. This house has always been about helping people. Now it's official. Family members began standing, moving away from Andrea, some coming to hug me, others just nodding in support. This isn't over, Andrea snarled, grabbing her purse. I'll fight this. No, Walter said firmly, you won't, because the next document I file will be a restraining order, and after that, fraud charges for those forged documents. Andrea's face crumpled. She looked around the room, finding no allies, no support. With a choked sob, she ran for the door, slamming it behind her. The storm outside was beginning to clear as sunlight broke through the clouds. Paris, Greta said, hugging me tight. Jermaine would be so proud. I looked around the room, at the family members wiping tears, at Tom's relieved smile, at Brooke and Eliza's triumphant grins. The house isn't mine anymore, I said. It belongs to everyone who needs it, just like it always should have. Outside, a rainbow appeared as the storm cleared, arching over the house like a promise kept. Somewhere, I knew Jermaine was smiling. The war was over. Now the real work could begin. The morning of the shelter's opening, I stood in the foyer, running my fingers over the wallpaper Andrea had once criticized. The house smelled of fresh paint and new beginnings. First resident arrives in an hour, Brooke said, checking her clipboard. You ready? Before I could answer, the doorbell rang. Tom stood on the porch, holding a box of photo albums. These belong here, he said quietly. Andrea, she took them when Jermaine got sick. I found them in our attic. I opened the top album. There was Jermaine as a teenager, helping his mother make up beds for their unofficial guests. Another showed him and his father installing the security system that would later become the foundation for our upgraded version. She tried to erase this part of the house's history, Tom said, but I thought, maybe the new residents would like to know the story. They'll know, I assured him. Every part of it. The sound of cars pulling up made us turn. Greta and Eliza were leading a group of volunteers, carrying welcome baskets and supplies. Behind them, Walter's car parked, and he emerged with a familiar wooden box. Found this in the office, he said, handing it to me. Thought it belonged here. Inside was a stack of thank you notes, dozens of them, written to Jermaine's parents over the years from women they'd helped. The front door opened again. A young woman in a police uniform stepped in. Officer Sarah, she introduced herself. I'm here about the shelter's security protocols, but... She hesitated, looking around. I also wanted to say thank you. I stayed here once, 20 years ago, when the Millers took me in. This place saved my life. Tears pricked my eyes as I showed her the thank you notes. Would you add yours to the collection? As she wrote, more volunteers arrived. The house hummed with activity, beds being made, supplies being organized, security systems being tested. "Paris," Eliza called from the study. "There's someone here to see you." I walked in to find Andrea's daughter, Rachel, standing awkwardly by the desk. "Mum's in therapy," she said without preamble. "Real therapy this time. Dad insisted." She pulled out an envelope. "She wanted me to give you this, but she was too ashamed to come herself." The letter was brief. "Paris, I was wrong. About everything. I let greed poison what should have been sacred. Jermaine knew who I really was, and he tried to help me see it too. I'm trying now. I'm sorry. Andrea." "She means it," Rachel said quietly. For the first time in her life, I think she actually means it. The doorbell chimed again. Our first resident had arrived. Through the window, I saw a young woman clutching a small bag, her eyes darting nervously. "That was me once," I said to Rachel, scared, alone, not sure who to trust. Can I help?" Rachel asked. "Volunteer here sometimes." "Of course," I smiled. "That's what family does." We walked to the front door together. The young woman flinched as I opened it, but her eyes widened as she took in the warm, bright interior. "Welcome home," I said softly. "I'm Paris, and this—" I gestured to the volunteers, the photos, the thank you notes, all the pieces of history and hope woven together. "This is your safe place now." She stepped inside, trembling. "I don't know how to thank you." "Just live," I told her. "Live and heal, and someday, when you're ready, help someone else do the same." As we showed her to her room, I caught sight of Jermaine's photo on the wall. He was standing in this very spot, arms open wide, that brilliant smile lighting up his face. The house didn't feel like a battleground anymore. The war with Andrea, the pain, the struggle, it had all transformed into something stronger, something healing. "Paris," Brooke called, "2 more arrivals." I touched Jermaine's photo briefly. "Watch this, my love. Watch how many lives we're going to change." The front door opened again, bringing with it more stories, more chances for healing. The house embraced them all, just as it had embraced me all those years ago. This wasn't an ending. It was a beginning. For the residents, for Andrea, for all of us. And as I welcomed another scared, hopeful face into our sanctuary, I knew this was exactly what coming home was supposed to feel like. The house wasn't just mine anymore. It belonged to every woman who would walk through that door, carrying nothing but hope and the courage to start again. Just like I had once done. Just like I would help others do, every single day, in this house that love had built.
I watched my brother Easton pull into our driveway in his shiny new Corvette, the metallic blue paint gleaming under the afternoon sun. My heart wasn't racing from excitement, it was pounding with rage. That car was supposed to be my future, my college fund, my chance at something better. My name is Reagan, and this is the story of how my family's betrayal sparked a fire they never saw coming. "Isn't she beautiful?" Easton called out, patting the hood like it was a prized pet. Mom and Dad rushed out of the house, their faces lit up with pride. The same pride I'd never seen when I showed them my straight A's or scholarship applications. "It's perfect, honey," Mom gushed, circling the car. "The colour really brings out your eyes." I stood in the doorway, gripping the acceptance letter from State University that had arrived yesterday. The one I couldn't accept because my college fund had mysteriously vanished. "Reagan, come look at your brother's new car." Dad waved me over, beaming. "This is what hard work looks like." Hard work. Right. Because managing a vape shop part-time was apparently harder than my 3 jobs combined. "How exactly did you afford this?" I asked, my voice steady despite the trembling in my hands. Easton's smile faltered for a split second. "Oh, savings and stuff." "Savings and stuff," I repeated. "You mean my college fund?" The atmosphere shifted instantly. Mom's smile tightened. "Reagan, don't start this again. Your brother needed reliable transportation for his new job." "My college fund was reliable transportation to my future," my voice cracked. "We had an agreement. That money was for my education." "Plans change, sweetie," Dad said, avoiding my eyes. Besides, community college is a perfectly good option. Your brother needs to maintain a certain image for his career. I laughed, but it came out more like a sob. His career selling vapes? While I'm working 3 jobs trying to save up for school? That's enough, Mum snapped. This attitude of yours needs to stop. Your brother has always known what he wanted in life. Maybe if you had his drive. His drive? I pulled out my acceptance letter, waving it in front of them. I got in. Full tuition would have been covered by my fund, the fund you gave to him for a sports car. Easton leaned against his new toy, rolling his eyes. Come on, sis, don't be dramatic. You can take out loans like everyone else. Everyone else didn't have their future stolen by their own family. I turned to my parents, searching their faces for any sign of remorse. There was none. Reagan, Mom sighed. Sometimes in life, we have to make sacrifices for family. Funny how I'm the only one ever sacrificing anything. I stormed back into the house, ignoring their calls. My phone buzzed, a text from my best friend Willow. How'd it go? Did they confess? I typed back, worse. They're proud of it. My hands shook as I dialed another number. After 2 rings, a familiar voice answered. Silas, it's Reagan. Remember that part-time position you mentioned at the dealership? Is it still available? Yeah, starts next week. Why? I watched through my window as my family continued admiring Easton's car, their laughter floating up like poison. Because I'm done waiting for handouts. I'm going to build my own future and then... I paused, a plan already forming in my mind. Then I'm going to make them wish they'd believed in me. That's pretty intense, kid, Silas said. You sure about this? They took everything from me and called it a sacrifice. I gripped my phone tighter. Now I'm going to show them what real sacrifice looks like. When can I start? Monday, 9 a.m. sharp. I'll be there. I ended the call and looked at my reflection in the window. The girl staring back wasn't the same one who'd woken up this morning hoping for an apology. She was someone stronger, someone who'd just discovered that revenge doesn't always wear a dark cloak. Sometimes it dresses in determination and wears a name tag. My phone buzzed again. Willow. Want me to come over? No, I replied. I need to start planning. This isn't over. Below, Easton revved his engine, showing off for our parents. The sound echoed through our quiet suburban street, but all I heard was opportunity. He thought he'd won, but he'd just handed me something far more valuable than money. He'd given me motivation. I pulled out a notebook and started writing. First step, survive community college. Second step, get that dealership job. Final step, make them regret ever choosing him over me. Game on, big brother. Game on. 3 months into my new routine, and I was running on coffee and spite. Community college during the day, dealership work with Silas in the afternoon, waitressing at night, and weekend shifts at the local bookstore. Sleep had become a luxury I couldn't afford. You look like death warmed over, Willow said, sliding a fresh coffee across the dealership's break room table. When's the last time you actually slept? Sleep is for people whose brothers didn't steal their future, I muttered, gulping down the coffee. Besides, I'm close to having enough saved for next semester's books. Silas walked in, waving a paper. Reagan, got something you might want to see. I reached for it, but he held it just out of reach. Before I show you this, promise me you're not going to work yourself to death. I promise nothing. I snatched the paper from his hand and started reading. My eyes widened. The Maxwell Scholarship for Business Innovation. Full ride to any university in the state, Silas nodded. Plus living expenses. The dealership's been asked to sponsor this year's competition. Willow peered over my shoulder. Holy shit, Rhea. This is exactly what you need. There's more, Silas said, pulling out his phone. Check your email. Just got the invite to the regional auto show. Your brother registered his precious Corvette. I nearly choked on my coffee. The same show where they announced the scholarship winner? The very same. Silas smiled. Funny how things work out, isn't it? My mind was already racing with possibilities. When are the scholarship interviews? 2 weeks before the show. But Reagan, Silas's voice turned serious, this isn't just about getting back at your brother. This scholarship is legitimate. You'll need a solid business proposal. I've got one, I said, pulling out my worn notebook. Been working on it since day one here. A program connecting struggling students with affordable, reliable transportation. Willow grabbed the notebook, flipping through pages of calculations and plans. This is actually really good. It should be. I've lived it. I checked my watch. Shit, I'm late for my shift at Mario's. About that, Silas interrupted. I talked to the owner. We need someone full-time in sales. The pay's better than all your other jobs combined. I stared at him. Are you serious? Dead serious. You've got a knack for this, kid. Plus, you'll have time to work on your scholarship application. My voice caught. Someone actually believing in me felt foreign. Thank you, Silas. Don't thank me yet. Jerry's waiting out front to start your training. Jerry? Willow perked up. My brother Jerry? The one and only, Silas grinned. Figured we could use an ex-mechanic teaching sales. Customers trust someone who knows cars inside and out. I gathered my things, mind already planning my next moves. I need to call the restaurant and bookstore. Already done, Willow said. Told them you got a better offer. They say congratulations, by the way. Walking to the front, I found Jerry leaning against a display car. Ready to learn how to sell dreams, Reagan? More than ready. I paused. Hey, how much do you know about Corvettes? Everything there is to know. Why? Because my brother's precious car is going to be at the auto show and I might need some expert insights. Jerry's eyes lit up with understanding. Say no more. But first, let's teach you how to sell cars better than anyone in this city. The next few hours flew by as Jerry walked me through the ins and outs of sales. His knowledge was impressive, and I soaked up every detail like a sponge. That evening, as I was locking up, my phone buzzed. Mum's text read, "Family dinner Sunday. Easton's got big news." I typed back, "Can't. Working." Her response was immediate. "You're always working. Family should come first." I laughed out loud, drawing curious looks from passing customers. "Funny, that's not what you said when you gave away my college fund." No response. Typical. Willow appeared beside me. "Want to grab dinner? We can work on your scholarship application." "Actually," I said, "I need to make a few calls. The auto show's looking for sponsors, right?" "Reagan." Willow's tone was warning. "What are you planning?" I smiled, thinking about Easton's smug face when he took my future. Let's just say, Big Brother's not the only one who can make an entrance. You're scary when you plot. You know that? Good, I said, dialing the number for the show's organizer, because this is just the beginning. As the phone rang, I watched the sunset reflect off the cars in the lot. Each one represented someone's dream. Soon I'd have mine back, and this time, no one would be able to take it away. The scholarship interview is at 10 a.m. and the auto show starts at 2 p.m., I explained, spreading papers across Jerry's garage workbench. That gives me exactly 3 hours to change and get everything in place. Jerry wiped his hands on a rag, studying the auto show layout. Easton's car will be in the main display area right here. He pointed to the center of the diagram. Prime spot for maximum embarrassment. Perfect, I smiled, but Willow looked concerned. Are you sure about this, Rhea? The scholarship should be your focus. Trust me, I've got the interview down cold. But this... I gestured to our plans. This is about more than just the money now. Speaking of money, Jerry interrupted, Lillian from the event committee called. They're thrilled about the dealership's sponsorship, especially the prize car for Best in Show. Silas really came through with that one, I said. Did you finish the inspection on Easton's car yesterday? Jerry's grin turned mischievous. Oh, yeah. Your brother's been cutting corners on maintenance. That beautiful engine of his? It's one hard acceleration away from serious problems. Problems that would be obvious to any real car enthusiast, I asked innocently. Crystal clear. Especially if someone were to, say, point them out during judging. Willow groaned. You two are evil geniuses. No, I corrected. We're just giving karma a little nudge. Pass me that event schedule. The garage door opened and Silas walked in carrying coffee and donuts. Plotting revenge before breakfast? That's dedication. More like finalizing details, I said, grabbing a coffee. Did you talk to the judges? Better. Silas pulled out his phone. I'm one of them. Turns out being the sponsor's representative has its perks. You didn't tell me that. I nearly spilled my coffee. Wanted it to be a surprise. But Reagan, his tone turned serious. Whatever happens at the show, your scholarship interview has to come first. It will. I've been practicing with Willow every night. Show them, Willow prompted. I straightened up, switching into presentation mode. My proposal addresses a critical gap in student transportation. By partnering with local dealerships and auto shops, we create a sustainable program that provides reliable vehicles to college students through affordable payment plans and maintenance education. Damn, Jerry whistled. You actually sound like you know what you're talking about. Because I do. I pulled out more documents. I've got market research, financial projections, and 3 local dealerships interested in piloting the program. Including ours, Silas added. The owner loves the idea. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Easton's practicing his acceptance speech for Best in Show. Wish you could be there to support him. They still don't know you're entering? Willow asked, reading over my shoulder. Nope, and they won't until the perfect moment. I showed them another paper. Look what I found in the show rules. Participants can register up until 1 hour before judging begins. Jerry laughed. Your brother's going to lose it when he sees you there. That's the plan, but first, I pulled out a folder labeled Maxwell Scholarship. Help me practice this interview one more time? For the next hour, they grilled me with questions. Each answer felt stronger than the last. This wasn't just about revenge anymore. It was about proving to myself that I could succeed, despite everything. One last thing, Jerry said as we wrapped up. I've been working on something special. He pulled a tarp off a car in the corner. Meet your show entry. My jaw dropped. It was a restored classic Mustang, gleaming in deep burgundy. Jerry, this is a real head-turner, he finished. Been restoring it in my spare time. The engine's perfect, the interior's immaculate, and best of all, it's got a story. One about determination and hard work. Just like its driver, Willow added softly. I ran my hand along the smooth paint. They won't know what hit them. That's the idea. Silas checked his watch. 2 weeks until showtime. Let's make them count. As we cleaned up the garage, I found myself staring at the Mustang. It represented everything I'd been fighting for. Second chances, hard work, and the sweet taste of proving everyone wrong. My phone buzzed again. This time it was Easton. Mom says you're being difficult about family dinner. Again. When are you going to grow up? I typed back. Soon. Sooner than you think. What are you smiling about? Willow asked. Just thinking about how some people never see karma coming until it runs them over. I picked up my scholarship folder. Now who's ready to help me practice this interview one more time? The garage filled with determined voices as we worked late into the night, each of us knowing that in 2 weeks everything would change. And this time, I'd be the one in the driver's seat. I can't believe you're missing Easton's big moment for a job interview, Mom said, stirring her coffee aggressively. I'd finally agreed to breakfast, mostly to keep suspicions low. He's been working so hard on his presentation. You mean the speech he's giving about a car he bought with my money? I kept my voice level, spreading jam on my toast. Besides, this interview is important. More important than family. The jam knife clattered against my plate. Funny how family only matters when it's about Easton. Dad lowered his newspaper. Reagan, that's not fair. Fair? I pulled out my phone, showing them my bank account. See these deposits? 3 jobs, Dad. That's what I've been doing while Easton practices his speech about hard work. At least he has goals, Mom snapped. All you do is work at that dealership and take community college classes. The doorbell rang, saving me from responding. Easton burst in, waving a paper. Guess who's favoured to win Best in Show? He sprawled across the couch. The judges already love my application. It's practically in the bag. Mom beamed. We never doubted you, honey. My phone buzzed. A text from Silas. First round interview results are in. Check your email. Excuse me, I muttered, stepping into the hallway. My hands shook as I opened the email. Congratulations. We are pleased to inform you that you have advanced to the final round of the Maxwell Scholarship Competition. Reagan? Dad called. Your brother's telling us about his plans for the winner's circle photo. I walked back in, tucking my phone away. Let them have their moment. Mine was coming. Oh, Reagan, Easton smirked. I forgot to ask. How's that reliable transportation working out for you? Bus running on time? Actually, I grabbed my keys. I need to go. Some of us have real work to do. Work? He laughed. Is that what you call selling used cars to desperate people? I paused at the door. You know what, Easton? Keep talking. It'll make it so much sweeter when... I caught myself. Never mind. Enjoy your speech practice. The drive to the dealership helped calm my nerves. Willow was waiting in the parking lot. Well? She demanded. Did you get in? I showed her the email. She squealed, pulling me into a hug. I knew it. How'd the family breakfast go? About as well as expected. I unlocked the office. But it doesn't matter. Everything's falling into place. Silas appeared in the doorway. Ready for some good news? The show organizer Lillian just confirmed your late registration. You're in. Perfect. I sat at my desk, pulling up the event details. Jerry finished the final touches on the Mustang? Better than that. Willow grinned. Show her, Silas. He handed me a glossy brochure. On the cover was the Mustang, photographed professionally under dramatic lighting. Is this the show's official program? Turn to page 3. There it was, a full-page feature on the mysterious last-minute entry. No driver named, just a stunning photo of the car and its specs. Lillian loves a good story, Silas explained. When I told her about a surprise entry that would shake things up, she was all in. My phone buzzed again. Easton. Mom's upset you left. Why do you always have to make everything about you? Says the guy who stole my college fund, I muttered. Focus, Willow said. Final interview prep tonight? Can't. Family dinner. Apparently I need to show more support for Easton's big moment. Silas leaned against my desk. You know, you could skip it. Stay focused on the scholarship. No, I said, gathering my things. I need to be there. Need to see their faces when they're gushing over him. It'll make next week so much better. That evening, I sat through another excruciating family dinner. Easton dominated the conversation with car show details, while Mom and Dad hung on every word. The judges are going to love the custom work I've done, he boasted. No one else will have anything like it. I bit my tongue, thinking of Jerry's immaculate restoration work on the Mustang. Reagan, Mom said sharply, your brother's talking about his big day. The least you could do is pay attention. Oh, I'm paying attention. I stood up. In fact, I can't wait for the show. It's going to be unforgettable. You're coming? Easton looked surprised. Thought you had that interview. I wouldn't miss it for the world. I grabbed my coat. Trust me, big brother. You're going to get exactly what you deserve. As I drove home, my phone lit up with a calendar reminder. 1 week until scholarship interview and show. 1 week until everything changed. 1 week until justice. I couldn't wait. The dealership wants to do what? I stared at Silas across his office desk, certain I'd misheard. Offer a brand new car to the best in show winner, he repeated, sliding the paperwork toward me. Owner's idea. Says your scholarship proposal impressed him so much he wants to go all in on the show. But that means, if you win, you get a new car. Silas grinned. If Easton wins, he gets one too. Either way, the publicity will be massive. I picked up the papers, scanning the details. This is a $50,000 vehicle. Yep. And look who gets to announce it at the show. My eyes widened. Me? You're our top salesperson now, Reagan. Makes sense for you to present the prize. The door burst open and Willow rushed in. Did you tell her about the car? Wait until you see what else we've got planned. She spread photos across the desk, professional shots of the Mustang, now wearing a special show finish that made it look like liquid metal under the lights. Jerry outdid himself, I breathed. That's not all, Willow said. Lillian called. They want the mystery entrant, that's you, to do a special presentation right before the final judging. My phone buzzed. Easton. Just saw the prize announcement. Guess I'll be winning 2 cars in one day. Maybe I'll let you wash them both. Perfect timing, I muttered, showing them the text. He has no idea I'm the one giving away that prize. Speaking of perfect timing, Silas checked his watch. The scholarship committee is here for your final interview prep. My stomach dropped. What? That's not until next week. Surprise practice round. He opened his door, revealing 3 people in business suits. They're doing courtesy run-throughs for all finalists. The next hour was intense. They grilled me on every aspect of my proposal, but I was ready. All those late nights practicing paid off. Impressive, the lead interviewer said afterward. Particularly your first-hand understanding of transportation barriers in education. Thank you, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. It's something I'm passionate about. After they left, Willow hugged me. You crushed it. They loved you. Don't celebrate yet, I said, checking my phone. Still have to get through the real interview and the show. About that, Jerry appeared in the doorway covered in garage dust. Come see this. He led us to the service bay where Easton's Corvette was up on the lift. Routine pre-show inspection, Jerry explained. Look at this. He pointed to several spots under the car. Maintenance issues everywhere. Any serious car enthusiast would spot these instantly. And the judges are all serious car enthusiasts, Silas added. Exactly. Jerry lowered the lift. His pretty paint job won't hide these problems. My phone buzzed again. Mom this time. We're hosting a pre-show breakfast for Easton's big day. Be there or don't bother coming to the show. Unbelievable. Willow read over my shoulder. They still have no idea you're competing. Nope. And it's staying that way until the perfect moment. I turned to Jerry. The Mustang ready? Better than ready. It's going to steal the show. He wiped his hands. By the way, Lillian wants to review your presentation for the prize announcement. Says it needs to be memorable. Oh, it will be. I pulled out my notebook. I've been working on something special. We spent the next few hours finalizing every detail. The scholarship interview timing, the show entrance, the prize announcement. Everything had to be perfect. One more thing, Silas said as we wrapped up. The owner wanted you to have this early. He handed me an envelope. Inside was a contract. My hands shook as I read it. Is this full-time position, management track, starting after graduation? Silas smiled. Told you he was impressed with your proposal. But what if I don't win the scholarship? Read the fine print. Contract's valid regardless. He's betting on you, kid. I sat down hard, overwhelmed. All this time I've been focused on proving them wrong. And instead you proved yourself right, Willow finished. My phone lit up with another text from Easton. Mom's mad you haven't RSVP'd for my celebration breakfast. Stop being jealous and act like family for once. I looked at the contract, then at the Mustang gleaming under the garage lights, and finally at my friends, my real family, standing around me. Tell Mom I'll be there, I said, typing the response. Wouldn't miss it for the world. Now that's going to be a breakfast to remember, Jerry laughed. I signed the contract with steady hands. 1 week until everything changes. 1 week until justice, Willow corrected. No, I smiled, watching Jerry pull the cover over the Mustang. 1 week until victory. The scholarship interview room felt smaller than I remembered. 3 judges sat across from me, reviewing my proposal one last time. Ms. Reagan, the head judge leaned forward. Your program addresses a critical need in student transportation. But what inspired this specific solution? I took a deep breath. Personal experience. When my college fund was redirected, I learned firsthand how transportation barriers can derail education dreams. But I also learned that with the right support system, those barriers can be overcome. 45 minutes later, I emerged from the interview room to find Willow waiting. Well, she demanded. They said they'll announce the winner at the show. I checked my watch. Speaking of which, we need to move. Now. We raced to Jerry's garage, where he was doing final checks on the Mustang. "Your chariot awaits, Princess of Payback." "Everything ready at the show?" I asked, changing into my presentation outfit, a crisp black suit that screamed, "Professional." "Silas is already there," Willow confirmed. "Your family's sitting front row, completely clueless. Easton's been bragging to everyone who'll listen." My phone buzzed. "Mom, where are you? Easton's presentation is in an hour." "Perfect timing," I smiled, sliding behind the Mustang's wheel. "Let's go make some dreams come true." The convention center was packed when we arrived. Jerry helped me park the Mustang in its hidden spot while Willow scouted ahead. "Easton's by his car," she reported back. "Your parents are fawning over him. The judges start their rounds in 20 minutes. "And the prize announcement?" "Right before final judging. Lillian says you're all set." I peeked around the corner. There was Easton, gesturing dramatically to his Corvette, while our parents nodded adoringly. The sight didn't hurt like it used to. "Places, everyone," Silas appeared, wearing his judge's badge. "Reagan, you're up first." I straightened my jacket and walked out onto the show floor. Mom spotted me first. "Reagan! Finally! Come see your brother's display." "Actually," I smiled, "I'm here on business." I held up my dealership badge. "We're announcing a special prize today." Easton's face fell slightly. "Wait, you're giving away the new car? They let you do that?" "Top salesperson gets the honor," I said sweetly. "But first, the judges need to start their rounds. Dad, you might want to film this." The judges approached Easton's car first. I watched as Jerry, now in his mechanic's coveralls, pointed out each maintenance issue he'd documented. Easton's confident smile cracked with each revelation. "These problems are concerning," one judge said, making notes, "especially for a show car." "But the paint job," Easton started. "Doesn't make up for poor maintenance," Jerry finished. "Shall we move on to the mystery entry?" The crowd followed the judges to where Willow was removing the cover from the Mustang. Gasps filled the air as the pristine restoration was revealed. "Now this," Jerry announced, "is craftsmanship." "Who's the owner?" someone called out. I stepped forward. "That would be me." The look on my family's faces was priceless. Mom's coffee cup actually slipped from her hand. "Impossible," Easton sputtered. "You can't afford—" "Actually," Silas interrupted, "Reagan here has quite the talent for both cars and business. Speaking of which—" He nodded to Lillian. She handed me the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen, before we announce our show winners, we have a special presentation. Reagan?" I took center stage, facing the crowd. "Today we're not just celebrating cars. We're celebrating determination, hard work, and the power of second chances. That's why I'm honored to announce that the winner of Best in Show will receive a brand new vehicle from our dealership." Applause erupted. I wasn't done. "But there's one more announcement." I turned to where the scholarship committee had appeared. "Would the head of the Maxwell Scholarship Committee please join me?" Mom grabbed Dad's arm. "The what?" The head judge took the microphone. "After careful consideration of all candidates, we're pleased to announce this year's full-ride scholarship recipient, Reagan." The crowd cheered. Easton's face had gone from red to white. Mom and Dad stood frozen. "A scholarship funded, ironically," I couldn't resist adding, "by the same amount as my original college fund." Cameras flashed as I shook hands with the committee. Lillian stepped forward with the show results. "And now for our Best in Show winner." I caught Easton's eye across the room. He looked small suddenly, standing next to his shiny car with its hidden flaws. The winner, with a perfect score from all judges, the 1967 Mustang, restored by Jerry Murphy and owned by Reagan. The convention center erupted. Through the chaos, I saw my parents trying to process everything. Easton had disappeared. Willow hugged me tight. How does victory taste? I looked at my scholarship certificate, then at my beautiful Mustang, and finally at my real family, Willow, Jerry, and Silas, beaming with pride. "Better than revenge," I answered. "So much better than revenge." The aftermath of the show was a blur of cameras, congratulations, and questions. Local reporters swarmed around, eager to cover the story of the underdog winner who'd also secured a prestigious scholarship. "Reagan!" A reporter thrust a microphone toward me. How does it feel to make history as both Best in Show winner and Maxwell Scholar? Before I could answer, Mom pushed through the crowd. Reagan, we need to talk. Now. Actually, Lillian stepped in smoothly. We need Reagan for the official winner's photos. Family pictures can wait. I caught a glimpse of Easton slumped in a corner, Dad trying to console him as Lillian led me away. You didn't tell me about the scholarship angle, she said, positioning me next to the Mustang. That made for quite the story. Speaking of stories, a woman in a sharp blazer approached, press badge glinting. I'm from the Tribune. We'd love to feature you in our Sunday edition. From setback to success, a story of determination. I looked at Willow, who nodded encouragingly. Yes, I'd like that. Perfect. Let's start with how you managed to keep this all secret. Before I could respond, Easton stormed over. You did this on purpose. You planned this whole thing to humiliate me. No, I said calmly, aware of the reporters watching. I did this to prove something to myself. Your humiliation was just a bonus. A bonus? He laughed bitterly. You stole my moment. Like you stole my college fund? The words rang out clearly in the sudden quiet. Phones appeared, recording. Tell me, Easton, how does it feel to have something important taken from you? That was different. You're right, I cut him off. It was different, because while you took my money for a car you couldn't even maintain properly, I worked 3 jobs, earned a scholarship, and built something real. Reagan, Mum tried again, please, let's discuss this privately. Why? I turned to face her. You never wanted to discuss it privately before. In fact, you never wanted to discuss it at all. The reporter was scribbling frantically. Silas appeared at my side. The dealership owner would like a photo with both cars, the winning Mustang and the prize vehicle you'll be presenting. Of course. I smiled at my family. Excuse me, I have some actual work to do. As I walked away, I heard the reporter asking Easton about the maintenance issues the judges had found. His stammered responses faded into the background. The next hour was a whirlwind of photos, interviews, and congratulations. The dealership owner announced my promotion to management publicly, adding another layer to the story. Finally, things quieted down. I found myself alone with my Mustang, running my hand along its perfect finish. You okay? Willow appeared with coffee. Better than okay. I took the cup. Just processing. We'll process quickly. The Tribune wants to do the interview at the dealership. Something about where it all began. Reagan. Dad's voice made us both turn. He stood awkwardly, hands in pockets. Can we talk? Willow squeezed my arm and stepped away. Talk about what, Dad? How you let Easton steal my future? Or how you never once stood up for me? About how I failed you. His voice cracked. Watching you today, seeing everything you've accomplished. I've never been more proud or more ashamed. Proud? I laughed. Now you're proud. I should have been proud all along. He pulled something from his pocket, an old photo of me at 16, washing my first car. You always knew what you wanted. I didn't listen. Before I could respond, Jerry called out, Reagan! The photographer needs you for one last shot. Go, Dad said softly. You've earned your moment. As I walked away, Mom intercepted me. We should have believed in you. Yes, I said simply. You should have. The photographer positioned me between the Mustang and the prize car, Silas and Jerry on either side, Willow in front. Perfect, the photographer said. The winning team. The real family, I corrected, loud enough for Mom to hear. Later, as the crowd thinned, Lillian handed me a stack of business cards. You've got offers for interviews, speaking engagements, and mentoring opportunities. Seems people love a redemption story. It's not about redemption, I said, watching Easton load his Corvette onto a trailer, defeat in every movement. It's about justice. No, Silas joined us. It's about growth. Look how far you've come. My phone buzzed. The Tribune reporter. Ready when you are. This story is going to inspire a lot of people. I looked around at my support system. Willow's fierce loyalty, Jerry's skilled guidance, Silas's unwavering faith, and smiled. Yes, I typed back. I'm ready to tell my story. Because sometimes the best revenge isn't about getting even. It's about getting ahead and never looking back. The Tribune article changed everything. My phone hadn't stopped ringing since it hit the Sunday paper. Local news stations, radio shows, and even a national magazine wanted to feature the story. Your inbox is exploding, Willow said, scrolling through my emails. 3 more dealerships want to implement your student transportation program. I was arranging papers on my new desk, management office, the door plaque read, when someone knocked. Come in. Easton stood in the doorway looking smaller than I remembered. Hey. If you're here about the Corvette's maintenance issues. I sold it. He stepped inside, hands shoved in pockets. Used the money to enroll in community college. I set down my papers. What? The article. It made me think. About choices. Consequences. He pulled out a folded newspaper. You said something here that hit home. Success isn't about what you're given. It's about what you're willing to work for. Easton, let me finish. Please. He sat down. I was awful to you, entitled selfish. When Mom and Dad offered me your college fund, I didn't even hesitate. I just took it, like I took everything else. The office door opened again. Mom and Dad walked in. We all need to talk, Dad said. As a family. I have a meeting in 20 minutes, I warned. This won't take long. Mom placed an envelope on my desk. It's everything we gave to Easton, plus interest. We've been blind, Reagan. Terrible parents. Money doesn't fix this. We know, Dad said. But it's a start. The rest? He gestured to my office, the dealership beyond. The rest you've already fixed yourself. My phone buzzed. Silas. Student transport program meeting in 5. Bringing the big guns. I have to go, I stood up. But thank you for acknowledging it at least. Wait, Easton reached into his bag. I brought something else. He pulled out a course catalogue. The automotive management program. I thought, maybe you could help me figure it out. Before I could respond, Willow burst in. Reagan, the investors are here early. I looked at my family. Really looked at them. Mum's hopeful eyes, Dad's nervous smile, Easton's humbled posture. Then at my office, my achievement, my victory. Sunday dinners, I said finally. We start over with Sunday dinners. And Easton? I picked up the course catalogue. Come by tomorrow. We'll talk about your classes. The relief on their faces was palpable. As they left, Silas entered with a group of suited executives. Ready to change the game? He asked. More than ready. I grabbed my presentation materials. Willow, can you reschedule my afternoon? There's something I need to do after this. Already done. Jerry's waiting at the garage. The meeting flew by, the investors immediately seeing the potential in the student transport program. As they filed out congratulating me, Silas hung back. You're different today, he observed. Lighter. Revenge weighs more than forgiveness, I said. I'm ready to let it go. At Jerry's garage, the Mustang sat gleaming. But next to it was something unexpected, a beaten-up Honda with a student driver sticker. First participant in your program, Jerry grinned. Full of potential, just needs some love. Like another car, I remember. And another person, Willow added. My phone buzzed one last time. Easton. Thank you for the second chance. I typed back. Thank you for earning it. Looking at the Honda, I saw myself. All the struggle, determination, and triumph. But now I could also see beyond my own story. Jerry, I said, teach me everything you know about fixing cars. Why? You're management now. Because sometimes people need more than just a program or a policy. I touched the Honda's hood. Sometimes they need someone who understands the journey. Willow hugged me suddenly. Look at you, turning revenge into revolution. Not revenge, I smiled. Evolution, for all of us. Silas appeared in the garage doorway. Ready to change some lives? I looked around at my chosen family, then thought of my healing real one. At the Mustang that proved my worth, and the Honda that would help prove someone else's. You know what? I am. Because sometimes the best endings aren't about winning or losing. They're about finding the strength to build something new from the wreckage of what was lost. And maybe, just maybe, helping others do the same. All right, I clapped my hands. Let's get to work. We've got futures to build. And this time, everyone was invited to the journey.
The first time I noticed something was wrong was during Sunday dinner, when Zoe casually mentioned how quaint it must be to live in the same house for 40 years. Her tone dripped with condescension, but my son James just smiled adoringly at his new wife, completely missing the slight. I'm Alea, and this house has been more than just a home to me. It's where I raised James alone after his father passed, where I nursed my mother through her final days, and where 3 generations of my family have lived and loved. Every crack in the walls tells a story. Every worn floorboard holds a memory. Actually, I said, keeping my voice light as I passed the mashed potatoes, it's been 43 years. My parents bought it when I was 17. Zoe's perfectly manicured nails drummed against her wine glass. That's sweet, but don't you think it's time for something more modern? James and I were just discussing how much potential this place has. I caught Fiona's eye across the table. My best friend's eyebrows shot up, but she kept quiet. She'd been coming to these Sunday dinners for 20 years, and I could tell she was as thrown by Zoe's comment as I was. The house is perfect as it is, James said quickly, but there was something uncertain in his voice that made my stomach clench. Of course it is, honey. Zoe patted his hand. I just think with some updates, we could really increase its value. The market in this neighborhood is incredible right now. Its value? I set down my fork. Are you planning to sell it? Mom, James interrupted. Nobody's selling anything. Zoe's just thinking about the future, that's all. The future. 6 months ago, the future had seemed so clear. James had met Zoe at his accounting firm, and their whirlwind romance had swept us all along. She was beautiful, charming, and seemed to make my son happier than I'd ever seen him. But lately, something felt off. I brought dessert, Fiona announced, breaking the tension. Alea, help me serve? In the kitchen, Fiona grabbed my arm. Did you hear that? Increase its value? Who talks like that about someone else's home? I pulled plates from the cabinet, trying to keep my hands steady. Maybe I'm being oversensitive. She's young, successful, probably just thinks differently about property. Or maybe she's showing her true colors. Fiona lowered her voice. Have you noticed how she's been rearranging things? Last week she moved your family photos from the living room. She said it would look more modern. In your house, Alea. Your house. Back in the dining room, Zoe was on her phone, speaking in hushed tones. Perfect timing, actually. No, trust me, it's practically a done deal. She looked up, quickly ending the call as we entered. Who was that, sweetheart? James asked. Oh, just work. She smiled brightly. You know how it is, always something coming up. I served the apple pie my mother taught me to make, the recipe passed down like this house, like the memories within its walls. Zoe took one bite and pushed it aside. I should really watch my sugar intake, she said. But James, honey, remember that realtor I mentioned? She's free tomorrow if you want to meet her. Realtor? I nearly dropped my fork. What realtor? James shifted uncomfortably. It's nothing, Mom. Zoe just thought it might be helpful to get an assessment. You know, for insurance purposes. Insurance purposes! I repeated the word slowly, watching Zoe's face. For a moment, her mask slipped, and I caught a glimpse of something calculating in her eyes. Exactly, she said smoothly. It's important to know what you're sitting on, isn't it? Especially in a neighborhood like this. Properties like this are opportunities. The word hung in the air like a threat. Fiona cleared her throat, but before she could speak, Zoe's phone buzzed again. I really should take this, she said, standing. James, coming? My son followed her like a puppy, leaving Fiona and me staring at half-eaten pieces of pie. Alea, Fiona said quietly, I don't want to alarm you, but I've seen this before. My sister lost her house to a manipulative daughter-in-law. Started just like this, casual comments, subtle suggestions. I looked around my dining room, at the walls that had witnessed countless family meals, at the window where I used to watch James play as a child. She's not getting my house, Fiona. No, my friend agreed, her voice hardening. She's not, but you need to be careful, very careful. As if on cue, Zoe's laugh drifted in from the living room, followed by words that made my blood run cold. Don't worry about her. She has no idea what's coming. I never meant to snoop through James's study, but when I heard whispers through the door while cleaning, my hand froze on the doorknob. Zoe was inside, talking on her phone again. Everything's proceeding perfectly, she said. The old lady trusts me completely. James, please, he's so desperate for approval he'd sign anything I put in front of him. My heart pounded as I eased the door open just a crack. Zoe was rifling through James's desk, pulling out folders. The property assessment came back even higher than we expected, she continued. Once we get her to sign over her rights, yes, exactly, we can flip it immediately. The developers are already interested. I must have made a sound because she suddenly went quiet. I hurried down the hallway, my cleaning supplies clutched to my chest, and didn't stop until I reached the kitchen. 10 minutes later, I called Fiona. I need your help, I said. Remember how you used to work for that private investigator? Say no more, Fiona replied. I'll be there in 20 minutes. She arrived with her laptop and a determined expression. We sat at my kitchen table, the same one where I'd helped James with his homework all those years ago. First things first, Fiona said, typing rapidly. Let's see what we can find about our dear Zoe's past. Hours later, we stared at the screen in disbelief. 3 failed businesses, Fiona read, 2 bankruptcies, and look at this, she was involved in a lawsuit over a property scheme in Florida. What kind of scheme? She convinced an elderly couple to sign over their beach house for estate planning purposes, sold it right from under them. My hands shook as I poured more coffee. We need to tell James. Not yet, Fiona warned. He's too in love to see clearly. We need concrete proof. A knock at the door made us both jump. It was Colin, my neighbor from across the street. Alea, he said, looking troubled, I think you should know. I saw some men in suits looking at your house yesterday. They were taking measurements of the property line. Did they say who they were? Development company. Your daughter-in-law was with them. I invited him in, and he sat heavily at the table. There's more. I overheard them discussing demolition costs. Demolition? My voice cracked. They want to tear down my house? The whole block, actually. They're planning luxury condos. Fiona's fingers flew across the keyboard. Got it. Highland Development Group. And look who's listed as their new real estate consultant, Zoe Harper, as of 2 months ago. Before she married James, I whispered. That's not all, Fiona said grimly. I found something in her social media. Posted 6 months ago. Found the perfect mark. Time to play the long game. The date matched exactly when she'd met James. My neighbor leaned forward. Alea, I've lived here 30 years. We all know what this house means to you. What do you need from us? Before I could answer, I heard a key in the front door. James's voice called out, Mom, you home? Quick, I hissed. Fiona slammed her laptop shut as Colin stood. Just dropping off some mail that was misdelivered, he said loudly as James entered the kitchen. Oh, hey everyone, James said, then frowned. Mom, why do you look so upset? Just tired, honey. I forced a smile. How was work? Good. Actually, Zoe and I wanted to talk to you about something. She's found this great estate lawyer who can help us sort out the house situation, make everything more official. Official? I kept my voice steady. Yeah, for inheritance purposes. Zoe thinks it would be better to handle it now rather than later. The lawyer's coming by tomorrow. After James left, Fiona grabbed my hand. We need to call Caleb. Caleb? But he's just a family friend. Who happens to be the best real estate lawyer in the city? Trust me, we're going to need him. I nodded slowly, remembering the determined look in Zoe's eyes when she'd first toured my house, the way she'd measured every room with her gaze. Make the call, I said. As Fiona dialed, I found myself staring at the family photos Zoe had tried to hide away. There was James on his first bike, my parents on their 50th anniversary, all the memories she wanted to bulldoze for her luxury condos. Caleb, it's Fiona. We need your help. Remember Alea? Well, her daughter-in-law is trying to pull something, and we need to set a trap. I listened as Fiona explained the situation, watched as Caleb's name appeared on her screen for a video call. For the first time since I'd overheard Zoe's phone conversation, I felt a spark of hope. Don't worry, Caleb's voice came through clear and determined. I've seen this before, and I know exactly how to handle it. The key is to let her think she's winning, Caleb explained, spreading documents across my dining room table. These are the papers she'll want you to sign tomorrow, but these, he pulled out another set, are what you'll actually be signing. I don't understand, I said, studying both sets. They look identical. That's the point. Caleb tapped the second stack. But these have a special clause. The moment she attempts to sell or develop the property without your explicit written consent, everything reverts to you exclusively. Plus, it triggers an immediate fraud investigation. Fiona grinned. Brilliant. She won't even read the fine print. She'll be too excited thinking she's won. But James? My voice caught. He'll be devastated. Better devastated than bankrupted, Caleb said gently. I've seen the financial records Fiona dug up. Zoe's planning to drain him dry along with taking your house. A knock at the door made us all jump. It was Colin again, looking agitated. Those developers are back, he reported. They're measuring the front yard now. Zoe's with them, showing them something on her tablet. I walked to the window. Sure enough, there they were, men in expensive suits, walking my property like they already owned it. Zoe stood among them in her designer clothes, gesturing enthusiastically. Perfect timing, Caleb said. Let's give her something to get excited about. Aaliyah, go out there. Tell her you've been thinking about what she said regarding estate planning. My hands trembled as I opened the front door. Zoe's face shifted from annoyance to false warmth when she saw me. Oh, Aaliyah, I was just showing these gentlemen your lovely garden. They're landscape architects. How nice, I said, forcing my voice to waver slightly. Actually, Zoe dear, I've been thinking about what you said, about making things official. Her eyes lit up like a shark spotting blood in the water. Really? Oh, that's wonderful. I was so hoping you'd come around. These things are so important to sort out. Yes, well, getting older makes one think. I wrung my hands for effect. Perhaps we could meet with that lawyer you mentioned. Tomorrow, maybe? Tomorrow? Yes, absolutely. She practically bounced on her expensive heels. I'll call him right away. This is so perfect. I mean, so sensible of you. Back inside, Caleb nodded approvingly. You played that perfectly. Now, let's go over exactly how tomorrow will work. We spent the next hour rehearsing. Caleb taught me how to appear hesitant but compliant, how to ask just enough questions to seem concerned but not suspicious. The moment she sees you wavering, he explained, she'll push harder. That's when we'll have her. What about James? I asked again. He'll be there too. Actually, he won't. Fiona held up her phone. I just got a text from my niece at his office. Zoe arranged for him to be sent to an urgent client meeting tomorrow afternoon. My stomach churned. She's making sure he's not here for the signing. More evidence of her deception, Caleb said firmly. We're doing this to protect both you and James. That evening, after everyone left, I sat in my living room looking at old photos. There was one of James on his wedding day, beaming at Zoe like she hung the moon. My son, who'd always worn his heart on his sleeve, just like his father. My phone buzzed with a text from Zoe. So happy you're being reasonable about this. Tomorrow, 2 p.m. Don't worry about a thing. I'll handle everything. I bet you will, I thought, but typed back, thank you, dear. You're so good to help with all this. Another buzz, this time from Caleb. Everything's set. Remember, let her think she's in control. We'll be right next door at Colin's house. I walked through my home that night, touching the walls, remembering. The height marks showing James's growth in the kitchen door frame. The dent in the living room wall from when he tried to learn juggling. The garden his father planted, where I still grew tomatoes every summer. Not this time, I whispered to the empty house. She's not taking you from us. My phone buzzed one final time. A message from Fiona. Just drove past. Zoe's outside with those developers again. They're drinking champagne in their car. I smiled, thinking of the trap we'd set, of Caleb's carefully worded documents waiting in his briefcase. Let them drink their champagne. Let them celebrate too early. Tomorrow, they'd learn what happens when you underestimate a mother protecting her home. The lawyer Zoe brought looked exactly as I'd expected. Expensive suit, practiced smile, and eyes that never quite met mine. He spread the papers across my dining room table while Zoe hovered nearby, practically vibrating with poorly concealed excitement. It's really quite simple, he explained, pointing to various sections. Just a standard transfer of property for estate planning purposes. And this protects my son? I asked, using the trembling voice Caleb had helped me practice. Of course, Zoe jumped in. That's what this is all about, family protection. I noticed she'd already started making changes to my home. The family photos were completely gone now, replaced by generic modern art. She'd even rearranged my furniture, pushing my favorite reading chair into a corner. I just need a moment, I said, standing up, to get some water. In the kitchen, I sent a quick text to Caleb. We're starting. They brought their own papers. His response was immediate. Perfect. Let them present first, then mention you had your own lawyer review some documents. When I returned, Zoe was on her phone, speaking in hushed tones. Yes, everything's proceeding as planned. The old lady's about to... Oh, she's back. Got to go. I pretended not to hear, settling back into my chair with shaking hands, this time from genuine anger rather than acting. Before we begin, I said, I had a family friend look over some similar documents. He's a lawyer, too. Would you mind reviewing them? The flash of panic on Zoe's face was quickly masked. Oh, we don't need a second opinion. These papers are completely standard. Still, I insisted, pulling out Caleb's documents. I'd feel better. The lawyer reluctantly took them, scanning the pages. His eyebrows rose slightly. He was good, but not good enough to hide his surprise at the sophisticated legal framework Caleb had constructed. These seem quite thorough, he said carefully. Is there a problem? Zoe's voice had an edge now. Not at all, I said, channeling every ounce of naivety I could muster. They're just for protection, right? Like you said. Zoe and her lawyer exchanged glances. After a whispered consultation, they agreed to use my documents, exactly as Caleb had predicted. They were too confident in their scheme to imagine I could outmaneuver them. The moment after I signed, Zoe's entire demeanor changed. She pulled out her phone, rapidly typing. I'm thinking we'll start with the kitchen, she announced. I've already contacted contractors. That awful old stove has to go. But I still live here, I protested. For now, she didn't even try to hide her smirk. But let's be realistic. At your age, wouldn't you be more comfortable in a nice retirement community? I know several excellent ones. A text buzzed on her phone. She read it and actually clapped her hands. Perfect. The developers can start surveying tomorrow. We'll need you to clear out within 30 days. Developers? I forced my voice to crack. What developers? Oh, didn't James tell you? This whole block is being redeveloped. Your house will be demolished, but don't worry, the condos they're building will be beautiful. Of course, you won't be able to afford one, but that's life, isn't it? The lawyer shifted uncomfortably. Perhaps we should discuss this later. Why? Zoe laughed. It's done. She signed. This house and property are under my control now. She turned to me with false sympathy. I know change is hard at your age, but you'll adjust. Maybe if you're lucky, James will let you visit once the new condos are built. My phone buzzed. Fiona, just saw James's car pull up. Perfect timing. The front door opened and James called out, Mom, why is there a developer's truck outside? Zoe's face went pale. You're supposed to be at that client meeting. It was canceled. James entered the dining room, taking in the scene, the papers, the lawyer, my devastated expression, and Zoe's barely concealed triumph. What's going on here? Your mother's just signed some estate planning documents, Zoe said quickly. Everything's fine. Estate planning? James picked up the papers. Then why does this mention Highland Development Group? Don't worry about that, honey. It's all being handled. Handled? James's voice rose. Like how you handled that meeting cancellation? I just found out you arranged it yourself. Zoe's mask slipped completely. You're overreacting. This is business, a fantastic opportunity. Your mother's fine with it, aren't you, Alea? I said nothing, watching my son's face as he read through the documents, seeing the moment realization dawned. You're trying to sell my mother's house? His hands were shaking. Behind my back? Not trying, Zoe snapped, her pretense finally dropping entirely. Already done, and there's nothing any of you can do about it. I smiled for the first time since the meeting began. Actually, I said quietly, that's where you're wrong. What do you mean, wrong? Zoe's voice had lost its smooth confidence. You signed the papers. It's done. Did you actually read what I signed? I asked, standing up slowly. Every word, every clause? Her lawyer grabbed the documents, scanning them more carefully this time. His face went ashen. Ms. Harper, we need to talk. Now. What? She snatched the papers from him. These aren't the same documents we prepared. James looked between us, confusion turning to anger. You prepared documents without telling me? Honey, please, Zoe backpedaled. This is all just a misunderstanding. The front door opened again. Caleb walked in, followed by Fiona and Colin. Actually, Caleb said, it's a very clear understanding. Those documents your wife just tried to rush through, they're evidence of attempted property fraud. That's ridiculous. Zoe spun toward her lawyer. Tell them. But he was already packing his briefcase. I suggest you get separate representation, Ms. Harper. I want no part of this. Part of what? James demanded. Will someone please explain what's happening? I nodded to Colin, who pulled out his phone. I've been recording Zoe's meetings with the developers. Would you like to hear what your wife says about you when you're not around? He pressed play. Zoe's voice filled the room. James is just a means to an end. Once we get the property, we can push him out too. He's as naive as his mother. James staggered back like he'd been physically struck. Zoe, it's not what you think, she said quickly. They're taking this out of context. Really? Fiona pulled out her laptop. Then let's add some context, like your social media posts about finding the perfect mark right when you met James, or your new job with Highland Development, which you conveniently never mentioned, or maybe your previous property fraud cases. Previous cases? James whispered. She's done this before, I said gently. In Florida, another family lost their home. You can't prove anything. Zoe's composure cracked completely. This is all circumstantial. That's why I installed cameras, I said quietly. After you started moving my things, holding secret meetings in my house, I decided to protect myself. I nodded to Caleb, who connected his tablet to my TV. The screen flickered to life, showing Zoe in my living room just yesterday, speaking to the developers. Once we get the old lady's signature, demolition can start immediately. She doesn't know the documents give me full control. James? Please, he's so blindly in love, he won't realize what's happening until it's too late. By then, we'll have flipped the property, and I'll be done with this whole family. The room fell silent except for James's ragged breathing. I trusted you, he said finally. I loved you. James, baby, please, get out. His voice was ice. Get out of my mother's house. You can't actually, Caleb interrupted. He can. The documents your wife just signed, they include an immediate eviction clause triggered by any evidence of fraud, which we now have in abundance. This isn't over, Zoe snarled, grabbing her purse. I'll fight this. Go ahead, I said calmly. The police would love to see all our evidence. I'm sure your previous victims would too. She stormed out, heels clicking furiously on my hardwood floors. Her lawyer followed quickly, avoiding everyone's eyes. James collapsed into a chair, head in his hands. Mom, I'm so sorry. I had no idea. I know, honey. I touched his shoulder gently. She fooled a lot of people. The developers, he said suddenly, looking up. They're still coming tomorrow. No, Caleb smiled. They're not. Once they see these documents and evidence of fraud, they'll run for the hills. No legitimate company wants this kind of scandal. Fiona started gathering up papers. We should get these somewhere safe. Zoe might try something desperate. Already handled, Caleb said. I've filed copies with the court and sent everything to the FBI's Real Estate Fraud Division. They were very interested in adding this to their existing file on Ms. Harper. Existing file? James looked sick. How did I not see any of this? Because she's very good at what she does, Colin said kindly, but not good enough to fool a mother's instincts. I looked around my living room, at the spaces where my family photos would soon return, at my son's devastated but relieved face, at my friends who had helped save my home. She thought I was just a helpless old lady, I said. That was her biggest mistake. The next morning, I found James in his old bedroom, sitting on the floor surrounded by moving boxes. He'd spent the night there, unable to face the condo he shared with Zoe. Look what I found, he said, holding up a worn notebook, my old journal from college. I sat beside him on the floor, ignoring my creaking joints. He flipped through the pages, then stopped suddenly. There's a new entry here, from last week. His voice cracked as he read. Something feels wrong. The way Zoe talks about Mom's house, the secret phone calls, the meetings she thinks I don't know about. But what if I'm just being paranoid? What if questioning this ruins everything? A knock at the door interrupted us. Through the window, I saw Zoe standing on my porch, wearing her most expensive suit. Don't answer it, James said quickly. We have to. I squeezed his hand. Caleb said to record everything from now on. I opened the door. Zoe's makeup was perfect, but her eyes were wild. We need to talk, she said, pushing past me into the house. James, baby, I know you're here. Don't call me that. James emerged from the hallway, journal still in his hand. "This is all a misunderstanding," she said, reaching for him. "I can explain everything. Like you explained to the developers how you were going to scam my mother? Or like you explained to your friends how naive I am. Those recordings are taken out of context." She spun toward me. "This is your fault. You turned him against me." "You did that yourself," I said calmly, pressing record on my phone. "Every lie, every secret meeting, every manipulation, those were your choices." "Choices?" She laughed hysterically. "You want to talk about choices? Fine. James, your mother's been manipulating you your whole life, keeping you close, making you feel guilty about this stupid house." "Stop it," James snapped. "Just stop." "No, you stop. Wake up. This was a business opportunity. A good one. But you're too blinded by Mommy's guilt trips to see it. We could have been rich. By destroying my family home? By lying to me? Oh, please," she sneered. "You knew something was wrong. I saw your pathetic little journal entries. But you were so desperate to believe in our perfect marriage that you ignored every red flag." James went pale. "You read my journal?" "Of course I did. I had to make sure you weren't catching on too quickly. Had to keep you distracted with date nights and future plans while I set everything up." "Set what up exactly?" I asked, making sure my phone caught every word. "All of it." She was practically shouting now. "The job with Highland Development, the marriage, everything. Do you know how long I worked to find the perfect property? The perfect mark? Then I find out about James, single, desperate for love, with a mother sitting on prime real estate." She stopped suddenly, realizing what she was admitting. "Keep going," James said quietly. "Tell us how you really feel." I didn't mean." "Yes, you did." He opened the journal. "Want to hear what else you didn't mean? The lies about business trips when you were meeting developers? The work calls that were actually plotting sessions? James, get out." His voice shook. "Get out before I call the police." "You can't prove anything." "Actually," Caleb's voice came from the doorway, "he just did." He held up his own phone, recording. "Confession of premeditated fraud, caught on multiple devices. The FBI will be very interested." Zoe's face contorted. "You're all gonna regret this. I have connections." "Like these?" Fiona walked in behind Caleb, carrying a stack of papers. "Your connections turned on you the moment we showed them the evidence. Highland Development just terminated your contract. They're cooperating fully with investigators." "No?" Zoe stumbled backward. "No, this isn't happening." "It is," I said. "And Zoe, you were wrong about one thing. This isn't just a house. It's a home, something you clearly wouldn't understand." She ran out, slamming the door so hard the windows rattled. Through the curtains, I watched her speed away in her expensive car. James slumped against the wall. "I'm such an idiot." "No," I said firmly. "You're someone who wanted to believe in love. That's not idiotic. It's human." "The police will want to talk to both of you," Caleb said gently, "and there will probably be a trial." "Good." James straightened up. "I want everyone to know what she tried to do, what she's probably done to others." I looked at my son, hurt but standing tall, betrayed but fighting back, and felt a fierce pride. "We'll face it together," I said. "That's what family does." "Real family," he agreed, putting the journal away. "Not the fake kind that comes with hidden agendas." The courthouse buzzed with tension as Zoe strode in, still wearing designer clothes, but noticeably less polished than before. 3 months had passed since her confession in my living room, and now we were all here for the final hearing. "All rise," the bailiff called out. James sat beside me, his knuckles white as he gripped the bench. Behind us, Fiona, Colin, and Caleb filled the row in silent support. How can she look so confident? James whispered as Zoe took her seat. After everything they found? The evidence had been damning. Once the FBI started digging, they uncovered a pattern stretching back years. Multiple properties, multiple victims, all carefully documented in Zoe's meticulous files. The judge cleared his throat. Before we proceed with sentencing, would any of the victims like to make a statement? An elderly couple from Florida went first, describing how Zoe had taken their beach house. Then a widow from Arizona, tears streaming as she recounted losing her family ranch. Finally, it was our turn. The defendant didn't just try to steal my home, I said, standing slowly. She tried to destroy my family. She married my son as part of her scheme, used his love as a weapon against both of us. Zoe's smirk faltered for the first time. But she underestimated us, I continued. She thought age meant weakness. She thought a mother's love could be overcome by greed. She was wrong. Objection, Zoe's lawyer called out. This is inflammatory. Overruled, the judge said. Continue, ma'am. I'm not asking for revenge, I said. I'm asking for justice, not just for me and my son, but for everyone she's hurt, everyone she saw as nothing more than marks to be exploited. James stood next. His voice shook at first but grew stronger with each word. I loved you, he said directly to Zoe. I thought we had a future together, but our entire marriage was just part of your con. You didn't just try to steal my mother's house. You stole a year of my life, my trust, my ability to believe in love. Zoe finally spoke up. This is ridiculous. It was business, nothing more. They're painting me as some kind of monster. Ms. Harper, the judge interrupted sharply, you'll have your chance to speak. When her turn came, Zoe's performance was Oscar-worthy. Tears, trembling voice, claims of misunderstanding, and good intentions. But the evidence told a different story. The recorded conversations, the fraudulent documents, the paper trail of previous scams. Your Honor, Caleb stood, presenting one final piece of evidence. We've just received this from the FBI. Bank records showing Ms. Harper attempted to transfer funds from her latest property scheme even after her arrest. She's still trying to profit from her victims. Zoe's facade cracked completely. You don't understand. These people are sitting on gold mines, too stupid to see the potential. That's enough, the judge cut in. I've heard everything I need to hear. He shuffled his papers, then looked directly at Zoe. Ms. Harper, your actions show a pattern of calculated deception and criminal intent that this court cannot ignore. The sentence came down like a thunderbolt. 8 years in federal prison, full restitution to all victims, and a lifetime ban from real estate transactions. No, Zoe shrieked as officers approached. You can't do this. I have rights. So did all the people you stole from, the judge replied coldly. As they led her away, she turned back one last time. James, baby, please, don't let them do this. But James stood firm, his arm around my shoulders. Goodbye, Zoe. Outside the courthouse, reporters swarmed us. Caleb handled most of the questions, while Fiona and Colin ran interference. How does it feel to be the ones who finally stopped her? Someone shouted. It feels like justice, I said simply, not just for us, but for everyone she hurt. Later that evening, we all gathered in my living room, the same room where Zoe had revealed her true nature months ago. The family photos were back on the walls, my furniture returned to its proper places. I found something else, James said, pulling out an envelope. Zoe's divorce papers, already signed. Good riddance, Fiona muttered. To new beginnings, Colin raised his glass. I watched my son smile, really smile, for the first time in months. The shadows hadn't completely left his eyes, but they were fading. Mom, he said quietly, I'm sorry I ever doubted. Don't, I interrupted. You loved her. That's nothing to apologize for. The house is safe now, Caleb added. I've added extra legal protections. No one will ever be able to pull something like this again. I looked around at my family, not just James, but all of them. The people who had stood by us, fought for us, believed in us. She thought she was taking a house, I said. She never understood she was taking on a family. The morning sun streamed through my kitchen windows as I watered the tomato plants on the windowsill, tiny seedlings from my garden, now safely growing indoors as winter approached. The coffee maker gurgled, filling the house with its familiar aroma. A knock at the door revealed James, carrying a box of old photos and a newspaper. Have you seen this? He spread the paper on the kitchen table. The headline read, Property Fraud Ring Exposed. Former real estate agent's conviction leads to broader investigation. Highland Development CEO was arrested this morning, James said, pouring coffee. Turns out Zoe wasn't the only one running these scams. She was just their most successful operative. Until she met us, I smiled, setting out breakfast plates. The doorbell rang again. This time it was Margaret, the widow from Arizona, who had testified at Zoe's trial. She'd flown in specially for today. The movers are bringing my furniture back tomorrow, she beamed. Thanks to the restitution order, I'm getting my ranch back. More people arrived. Fiona with fresh muffins, Colin carrying folders, Caleb in his usual suit. Soon my kitchen was full of chatter and life. The support group starts next week, Margaret announced, spreading papers across my table. For victims of property fraud. We've already got 15 members. And the foundation? Caleb asked. Ready to launch, I confirmed. James did all the paperwork. The foundation had been James's idea, using part of the restitution money to help other fraud victims fight back. My house, which Zoe had seen as nothing but profit potential, would now host monthly meetings for people fighting to save their own homes. First case is already lined up, Colin said. Family in Oregon, similar situation to yours. Developer trying to force them out through fraudulent paperwork. We'll stop them, James said firmly, just like we stopped Zoe. The doorbell chimed again. This time it was a young couple, clutching paperwork and looking nervous. Please come in, I said warmly. You must be the Thompsons. Caleb told us about your situation. We didn't know where else to turn, Mrs. Thompson whispered. The bank says our signatures are on sale documents we never signed. You're in the right place, James assured them. Show us everything. As everyone gathered around my dining room table, the same table where Zoe had tried to trick me with fraudulent documents, I watched James spread out the Thompsons' papers, explaining terms, pointing out red flags. His pain had become purpose. Mom? He looked up. Can you tell them what to watch for? The little signs we missed at first? Of course. I sat beside Mrs. Thompson. First, trust your instincts. If something feels wrong, the morning turned to afternoon as we worked. More people dropped by, other victims from Zoe's trial, neighbors who'd helped gather evidence, even the FBI agent who'd handled our case, bringing updates on the expanding investigation. Your case broke it wide open, she explained. We've identified 30 more victims across 6 states. And they'll all get justice, Caleb added. The precedent from Zoe's trial makes these cases much stronger. As the sun began to set, I stood in my doorway watching everyone leave. The Thompsons looked hopeful now, armed with knowledge and support. Margaret was discussing ranch renovation plans with Colin. Fiona and Caleb were already reviewing the next case. James lingered behind, gathering the empty coffee cups. You know what Zoe never understood, he said, placing them in the sink. A house isn't just walls and property value. It's memories and family and love. And now it's something else too, I added. A place where people can find help and hope. He hugged me tightly. I'm staying for dinner. We can go through those old photos I brought. As we sat at the kitchen table, sorting through memories while new tomatoes grew on the windowsill, I thought about Zoe sitting in her prison cell. She'd tried to take my home, but instead, she'd given us a mission. The doorbell rang one final time. Another family stood on my porch, papers in hand, fear in their eyes, but hope in their hearts. "Come in," I said, opening my door wide. "Tell us your story. We can help." Because that's what this house had become, not just my home, but a beacon for others. Every person Zoe had seen as a target, we would see as family. Every house she'd viewed as profit, we would help protect as a home. That was our revenge, and it was sweeter than anything she could have imagined.
I stood in front of the mirror, adjusting my silk blouse for the 100th time, wondering how my fairy tale wedding had morphed into this suffocating nightmare in just 6 months. The reflection staring back at me wasn't the confident marketing executive I used to be. I barely recognized myself anymore. I'm Bailey, and I never thought I'd be the type of woman who'd let herself be pushed around by her in-laws. Yet here I was, preparing for another dreaded Sunday dinner at their house, where every bite would be seasoned with criticism and every gesture scrutinized. "Bailey, we're going to be late," Kirk called from downstairs. My husband's voice carried that edge of anxiety it always had when it came to his parents. "Mom's already texted twice." "Coming!" I grabbed my casserole dish, a recipe Rhea had passive-aggressively suggested I try to master last week. The smell of perfectly roasted vegetables filled the air, but I knew it wouldn't be good enough. Nothing ever was. The drive to their suburban fortress was tense. Kirk's knuckles were white on the steering wheel as he lectured me about proper etiquette, as if I hadn't heard it all before. "Remember to offer to help with dishes right after dinner. Last time you waited too long, and Mom noticed." I bit my tongue until I tasted blood. "Kirk, I know the drill." "I just want everything to go smoothly," he said, his voice softening slightly. "They mean well, you know that." The grand house loomed before us, all brick and judgment. Rhea opened the door before we could ring the bell, her perfectly coiffed hair and pearls a stark contrast to my simple outfit. "You're late," she said, kissing Kirk's cheek while barely glancing at me. "And Bailey, dear, didn't I mention this was a formal dinner?" I looked down at my pressed slacks and silk blouse, perfectly appropriate for any normal dinner. "I'm sorry, Rhea. I must have misunderstood." Morgan appeared behind her, martini in hand. Come in, though I do wish you'd make more of an effort to be punctual. Respect for time is respect for family." The evening unfolded like a well-rehearsed play. I helped Rhea in the kitchen while Kirk and Morgan discussed business in the study. Every move I made was wrong. I chopped the onions too roughly. I didn't fold the napkins the family way. I used the wrong serving spoon for the salad. "In this family," Rhea said, stirring her sauce with practiced precision, "we have standards that have been maintained for generations." She paused, eyeing my casserole. "I see you attempted the roasted vegetables again." "Yes, I followed your recipe exactly." She lifted the lid and sniffed. "Well, it's better than last time." During dinner, I sat quietly as they discussed family history, business ventures, and their country club memberships. Kirk occasionally squeezed my hand under the table, but remained silent when his mother criticized my career. "I just don't understand why you insist on working such long hours," Rhea said, delicately dabbing her lips. "A wife's place is in the home, isn't that right, Morgan?" "Indeed. My mother never worked a day in her life, and she raised 3 successful children." "Times have changed," I ventured carefully. "Many women balance both career and family now." The silence that followed was deafening. Rhea's fork clinked against her plate as she set it down. Perhaps that's why this generation's family values are crumbling. When I married Morgan, I knew my responsibility was to the family first. "Bailey has some modern ideas," Kirk said weakly, avoiding my eyes. The evening culminated with Rhea's coup de grace over coffee and dessert. "You know, Bailey, when Kirk first brought you home, I worried you might not understand our family's traditions. And well," she smiled, all teeth and venom. "I suppose mothers do know best. I felt something snap inside me. 6 months of suppressed anger and resentment threatened to burst forth, but I swallowed it down with my lukewarm coffee. As I mechanically helped clear the dishes, I caught my reflection in the dining room mirror again. Behind me, Rhea was instructing Kirk about some family event, while Morgan nodded approvingly. That's when I realized this wasn't just about tonight. This was my future stretching endlessly before me, an infinite series of Sunday dinners where I slowly disappeared, piece by piece, until nothing remained but an obedient shadow in a silk blouse. As we drove home in silence, Kirk reached for my hand. That wasn't so bad, was it? I pulled away, turning to stare out the window at the passing streetlights. Something had changed inside me tonight. I didn't know what I was going to do yet, but I knew one thing for certain. I wouldn't disappear without a fight. Monday morning hit like a sledgehammer. I rushed through my morning routine, already running late for a client meeting because I'd spent an hour scrubbing the bathroom to Rhea's standards. She was dropping by for a surprise inspection later. "Your presentation materials are still on the kitchen counter," Kirk called out as I grabbed my keys. "And Mom texted, she wants you to prepare her special pot roast recipe for dinner." I froze at the door. "Kirk, I have 3 client meetings today. I can't possibly—" "Bailey, please. You know how she gets. Just make it work, okay?" The resignation in his voice made my blood boil. I spun around to face him. "When are you going to stand up to them? When are you going to be my husband instead of their son?" Kirk's face hardened. "You knew what you were marrying into. This is how our family works. My parents sacrificed everything to give me the life I have, and I owe them respect." "Respect? Yes. Servitude? No." I grabbed my bag. "I'm late for work." At the office, my friend Delaney caught me stress-eating a muffin at my desk. "Rough weekend with the in-laws from hell?" "You have no idea." I showed her the growing list of texts from Rhea about dinner preparations. She's basically turned me into her personal chef and housekeeper. "Girl, you need to set some boundaries." "I've tried, but Kirk," my voice cracked, "he always takes their side." "Have you considered couples therapy?" I laughed bitterly. Rhea would sooner die than let family problems be discussed with outsiders. A knock at my office door interrupted us. It was Jeffrey, Kirk's younger brother, looking uncomfortable in his suit and tie. "Hey, Bailey, got a minute?" Delaney squeezed my shoulder as she left, closing the door behind her. "I wanted to check on you after last night," Jeffrey said, settling into a chair. "Mom was particularly brutal. Nothing I'm not used to by now." "You shouldn't have to be used to it." He leaned forward, lowering his voice. "Look, I know how they operate. I've watched them do this to every person who's married into the family. They break people down until there's nothing left." "Why are you telling me this?" "Because you're different. You're stronger than they expect." He glanced at the door. "Just be careful. They have ways of maintaining control. Financial ties, emotional manipulation. They're experts at it." "And what about Kirk? Why doesn't he see it?" Jeffrey's expression softened. "Kirk's their masterpiece. He'll never go against them. Trust me, I've watched him choose them over everyone else his entire life." After Jeffrey left, I buried myself in work until my phone buzzed with another text from Rhea. "Don't forget to pick up fresh thyme for the pot roast. The grocery store on Oak Street has the best produce. And please wear something appropriate when I visit." That outfit from Sunday was rather casual. I slammed my phone down, startling my assistant. The rest of the afternoon passed in a blur of meetings and deadlines, but my mind kept circling back to Jeffrey's warning. At 5:30, I called Kirk. "I'm staying late at work. There's a client emergency." "Bailey, you know Mom's coming for dinner. She's expecting—" "Then you make the pot roast," I snapped. "I'm done being her servant." "Why are you being so difficult? This is about respect." "No, this is about control, and I'm done playing their game." I hung up and drove to meet my friend Madeline at our favorite coffee shop. She listened as I poured out everything: the constant criticism, Kirk's betrayal, Jeffrey's warning. "You know what this is, right?" Madeline said, stirring her latte. "It's abuse. They're systematically destroying your independence." "I know." I wrapped my hands around my cold coffee. "But what can I do? Kirk controls our finances, his parents have connections everywhere in town, and You're not trapped, Bailey. There are always options. My phone lit up with messages. Kirk, Rhea, even Morgan now. I turned it face down on the table. I can't keep living like this, I whispered. Then don't. Madeline's voice was steel. But whatever you do, be smart about it. People like them don't give up control easily. When I finally got home that night, Kirk was waiting up. Mom's furious. She sat here for 2 hours. I don't care. I cut him off, my voice steady. I'm going to bed. As I lay awake, listening to Kirk's quiet breathing beside me, I thought about Jeffrey's words and Madeline's advice. They were right. I needed to be careful, but I also needed to act. Something had to change, and soon. I just didn't know yet how far I'd have to go to make that happen. The following Saturday, while Kirk was golfing with his father, I tackled the attic cleaning project Rhea had been nagging about for weeks. The musty space was crammed with generations of Holland family history, each box labeled in Rhea's precise handwriting. I was halfway through sorting old photo albums when I knocked over a heavy metal filing box. Papers scattered across the floor, and as I gathered them up, a medical document caught my eye. Patient exhibits severe allergic reaction to... I squinted at the faded text, my heart beginning to race as I read further. My phone buzzed. Madeline calling. You'll never believe what I just found, I said, still staring at the papers. Tell me over lunch. I'm outside your house right now. 20 minutes later, we sat in a quiet corner of a cafe across town, the medical records spread between us. So both Rhea and Morgan are allergic to shellfish? Madeline asked, examining the documents. Severely allergic? According to these records, yes. But look at the dates. These are from years ago. And here's the weird part. There's a whole file of legal documents about keeping it quiet. Something about a business deal that fell through because of it. Their perfect image, Madeline mused. They couldn't let anyone know about a weakness. Exactly. Kirk never mentioned this. I've watched Rhea refuse seafood at restaurants, always claiming she simply doesn't care for it. Information is power, Bailey. Madeline's eyes met mine, especially with people like them. I gathered the papers carefully. I need to think about this. Just be careful. Whatever you're planning. I'm not planning anything, I said quickly. Too quickly. Back home, I was hiding the documents in my home office when Kirk returned from golf. What are you doing in here? He asked, making me jump. Just organizing some work files. I turned to face him, keeping my voice steady. How was golf? Dad's trying to convince me to take over as CEO when he retires next year. Kirk loosened his collar. Says it's my duty to the family. And what do you want? What I want doesn't matter. Family comes first, you know that. I watched him walk away, remembering the bright-eyed man I'd fallen in love with 2 years ago. Where had that person gone? My phone buzzed with a text from Jeffrey. Need to talk. Important. Coffee tomorrow? We met early Sunday morning at a small cafe downtown, far from his parents' usual haunts. They're planning something, Jeffrey said without preamble. I overheard Mom and Dad talking about putting you in your place once and for all. What does that mean? They want Kirk to make you quit your job. They're going to pressure him to get you pregnant, trap you in their world completely. He leaned forward. They've done it before, to our cousin's wife. She had a breakdown and left town. My hands shook as I set down my coffee. Kirk wouldn't he? You've seen how he is with them. I thought about the medical records hidden in my office. What if someone had information about them? Something they wanted to keep secret? Jeffrey's eyes narrowed. Be careful, Bailey. They destroy people who threaten them. They're already destroying me. Back home, I pulled out the medical records again, spreading them across my desk. My marketing brain kicked in, analyzing angles, possibilities, consequences. My phone lit up with Rhea's name. Dinner at our house tonight. Wear something appropriate this time. I was about to decline when another text came through. We need to discuss your role in this family. A plan started forming in my mind. I texted back, "Of course, I'll bring dessert." That afternoon, I met Delaney for a quick coffee break at work. "You seem different today," she observed, more focused. "I found something," I said quietly. "Something that might give me leverage." "Against the in-laws?" She lowered her voice. "What kind of leverage?" "The kind that could change everything." I hesitated. "But I need your help. You used to work in medical administration, right?" "Bailey." Her expression grew serious. "Whatever you're thinking of doing, make sure you can live with the consequences." I thought about Kirk's submission to his parents, Jeffrey's warning, the years of manipulation ahead of me if I did nothing. "The consequences of doing nothing would be worse," I said firmly. As I drove home that evening, my mind was racing with possibilities. The medical records felt like a loaded gun in my bag, dangerous but powerful. I just had to decide if I was willing to pull the trigger. The confrontation with Kirk happened on a rainy Tuesday evening. I'd just finished a call with Delaney about the medical records when he stormed into the kitchen, waving his phone. "Mom's crying," he said, his voice shaking. "She says you've been ignoring her calls about the charity gala planning." I set down my coffee mug carefully. "I've been working, Kirk. I have a career, remember?" "This is important to them. The gala is our family's biggest social event of the year." "Their family," I corrected, "not ours." Kirk's face reddened. "That's exactly the attitude they warned me about. Mom says you're trying to drive a wedge between us." "Between us?" I laughed bitterly. "There already is a wedge. It's called your parents. Don't talk about them like that." He slammed his hand on the counter. "They've given us everything." "Given us?" I stood up. "They've taken everything from me. My independence, my self-respect, my husband." "That's enough." Kirk's voice rose to a shout. "Mom was right. You need to quit your job and focus on your real responsibilities." The room went silent. I stared at him, feeling something final snap inside me. "What did you just say?" "We've discussed it," he continued, quieter now. "Dad's offering you a position managing the family's charitable foundation. Part-time, of course. That way, you can focus on starting our family." My phone buzzed. Delaney texting about what she'd found in the medical records. I ignored it. "You discussed my career with your parents?" My voice was ice. "You planned my entire future without even talking to me?" "They know what's best for us." "No." I grabbed my keys. "They know what's best for them." I drove through the rain to Delaney's apartment, my hands shaking on the steering wheel. She opened the door before I could knock. "You look like hell," she said, pulling me inside. "They want me to quit my job." I collapsed onto her couch. "They're trying to trap me completely." Delaney sat beside me, opening her laptop. "Then you need to see what I found. Those medical records? They're just the beginning." She pulled up financial documents, legal papers, old news articles. Their shellfish allergy isn't just a medical condition. It's tied to a massive insurance fraud case from 15 years ago. They claimed Morgan had a severe reaction at a business dinner, sued the restaurant for millions. "But the records show they knew about the allergy years before that," I said, leaning closer. "Exactly. And that restaurant? It went bankrupt. The owner lost everything." My phone kept buzzing. Kirk, Rhea, even Morgan now. I turned it off. "There's more," Delaney continued. "I found similar patterns. They've used their condition to manipulate situations, destroy competitors, control narratives. It's all about power. Just like what they're doing to me." "Bailey." Delaney closed her laptop. "What are you thinking?" Before I could answer, there was a knock at the door. Jeffrey stood there looking worried. "Kirk called me," he said, stepping inside. "Said you had a fight." "They want me to quit my job." Jeffrey nodded grimly. "I figured this was coming. Mom's been planning it for weeks." "I found something," I said suddenly. "About your parents, about their allergies." His eyes widened as I explained. When I finished, he was silent for a long moment. "The restaurant they sued," he said finally. "The owner was my first girlfriend's father. After they destroyed him, they made sure I never saw her again." "Will you help me?" I asked. "Help you what?" "Take back control. Make them understand they can't keep doing this to people." Jeffrey ran a hand through his hair. What exactly are you planning? Delaney spoke up, something that could backfire spectacularly if we're not careful. My phone buzzed again when I turned it back on. A text from Rhea. Family dinner this Sunday. Non-negotiable. We need to discuss your recent behavior. Perfect timing, I said, showing them the message. They're planning to ambush me at dinner, but what if I ambush them instead? Bailey, Jeffrey warned, if you're thinking what I think you're thinking... They use their allergy to destroy people's lives, I said. Maybe it's time they got a taste of their own medicine. Literally, Delaney muttered. I looked between them, my friend who'd helped uncover the truth, and my brother-in-law who'd lived under his parents' manipulation his whole life. Are you with me? Jeffrey hesitated, then nodded slowly. Just promise me you won't take it too far. I promise, I said, but even as the words left my mouth, I wasn't sure if I could keep them. Sunday arrived with a weight of inevitability. I spent the morning in the kitchen, preparing the elaborate meal Rhea had suggested. My hands moved methodically through the familiar motions while my mind raced with doubt and determination. Something smells amazing, Kirk said, entering the kitchen. He'd been walking on eggshells since our fight. Is that Mom's special roast? And more. I gestured to the spread of dishes. I'm making her favorite seafood pasta, too. Seafood? Mom doesn't eat. I thought it was time to expand our family's culinary horizons. I kept my voice light. Just a small portion, mixed in with the regular pasta, for those who want to try it. Kirk shrugged, already distracted by his phone. Just don't be offended when she doesn't touch it. Delaney called while I was packing the food. Are you sure about this? The shellfish is just for show, I assured her. A message. I have copies of all the documents ready. And Jeffrey? He's meeting us there. He'll back me up when I confront them. Bailey, Delaney hesitated. Just remember, you can't take it back once it's done. The drive to Rhea and Morgan's house felt like heading into battle. Kirk chatted about work, oblivious to my white-knuckled grip on the food containers. Jeffrey met us at the door, his face tense. Mom's in rare form today, he whispered as he helped me with the dishes. She's been practicing her concerned mother speech all afternoon. Perfect. I started arranging the food on their formal dining table. Let her perform. Rhea swept in, immaculate as always. Bailey, dear, I'm so glad you decided to be reasonable about tonight. Her eyes narrowed at the pasta dish. What's that? Just trying something new, I said sweetly. I've been experimenting with different recipes. Morgan joined us, drink in hand. Smells interesting, not your usual fare. That's the point, I smiled. Time for some changes, don't you think? Everyone settled around the table, Rhea and Morgan at the heads, Kirk and Jeffrey on one side, me alone on the other. The power dynamic wasn't lost on me. Before we eat, Rhea began, folding her hands, we need to discuss your recent behavior, Bailey. My behavior? I served myself some pasta. Please elaborate. Your attitude, your resistance to family traditions, your career obsession. Rhea's voice dripped with rehearsed concern. We're worried about you, dear. Actually, I set down my fork. I've been worried about you, too. Oh? Morgan raised an eyebrow. I reached into my bag and pulled out the first document. Particularly about your health issues, the ones you've kept secret for so long. The color drained from Rhea's face. Morgan set down his glass too quickly, splashing wine on the pristine tablecloth. What are you talking about? Kirk asked. Show them, Jeffrey. Jeffrey pulled out his phone, displaying the old news article about the restaurant lawsuit. Remember the Riverside Grill, Dad? The owner whose life you ruined? That's enough, Morgan snapped. No, it's not. I laid out more documents. I have everything. The insurance fraud, the lawsuits, the pattern of destroying people's lives using your secret condition as a weapon. Bailey, Kirk started. What are you doing? Showing you who your parents really are. I pushed the seafood pasta toward Rhea. Would you like some, Mother? Or should we discuss how you've used your shellfish allergy to manipulate and destroy people for years? The silence was deafening. Rhea's hands trembled as she stared at the documents. Morgan's face had turned an alarming shade of red. "You ungrateful little," he began. "Careful," I cut him off. "The documents are already with my lawyer. One word from me, and everything goes public." "You're bluffing," Rhea whispered. "Try me." I stood up. "I'm done being your puppet, done watching you control and manipulate everyone around you. This ends now." "Kirk," Morgan turned to his son, "control your wife." But Kirk was staring at the restaurant article, his face ashen. "Is this true? Did you really destroy that family just to win a lawsuit?" "We did what was necessary," Rhea said stiffly, "for the family." "The family?" Jeffrey laughed bitterly. "You mean for your power, your control." I gathered my things, my heart pounding but my voice steady. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to back off. No more interference in my career, my marriage, my life, or everything comes out." "You can't prove any of this," Morgan blustered. "Want to bet your reputation on that?" I walked to the door, then turned back. "Oh, and the pasta? It's regular. But watching you squirm? That was the real dish I served tonight." As I left, Jeffrey followed me out. Behind us, I could hear Kirk's raised voice demanding answers from his parents. The night air felt clean and fresh. For the first time in months, I could breathe freely. But this was just the beginning. The next morning, my phone exploded with notifications. Missed calls from Kirk, who hadn't come home last night. Texts from Jeffrey warning me that his parents were on the warpath. And one voicemail from Morgan that made my blood run cold. "You have no idea what you've started," his voice growled. "We built this family's reputation over generations. We won't let some outsider destroy it." I played the message for Madeline over breakfast at her place. "Sounds like a threat," she said, pushing her coffee aside. "Maybe we should call the police." "And tell them what? That my in-laws are mad I exposed their secret allergy?" I shook my head. "No, we stick to the plan." My phone buzzed again, Kirk calling. I answered on speaker. "Where are you?" His voice was ragged. "We need to talk." "I'm safe. That's all you need to know." "Bailey, please. What you did last night. Mom and Dad are furious. They're talking about legal action." "Let them try." I kept my voice steady. "I have copies of everything." "Why are you doing this to our family?" "Our family?" I laughed. "There is no our family, Kirk. There's just their family, and I'm done being their victim." The door chime interrupted us. Madeline checked the security camera and froze. "It's your in-laws," she whispered. "All of them." I ended the call with Kirk. Through the window, I could see Rhea, Morgan, and Kirk standing at Madeline's front door. Jeffrey was there too, hanging back with an apologetic look. "Back door," Madeline mouthed, pointing to her kitchen. But before I could move, Morgan's voice boomed through the door. "We know you're in there, Bailey. We just want to talk." "Like civilized people," Rhea added, her voice sickly sweet. I took a deep breath and opened the door. They filed in, an invasion force in expensive clothes. "Civilized?" I said. "Like how you civilized that restaurant owner, or all the others you've destroyed?" "Those were business decisions," Morgan said smoothly. "Speaking of business, we have a proposition for you." Rhea pulled out a checkbook. "Name your price. We can make this all go away." "You think you can buy me off?" "Everyone has a price," Morgan said. "And we're willing to be very generous." Kirk stepped forward. "Bailey, please. They're offering us a fresh start. We could move to the West Coast branch, away from all this." "Us?" I stared at him. "You're still taking their side?" "I'm trying to save our marriage." "Our marriage was over the moment you chose them over me." The words hurt, but they felt true. "I don't want your money. I want justice." Morgan's facade cracked. "Justice? You want to destroy everything we've built because we hurt your feelings?" "No," I pulled out my phone. "I want to expose you because of this." I played a video Jeffrey had sent me last night. Security footage from the restaurant they'd sued, showing Rhea and Morgan calmly eating shellfish just weeks before their tragic accident. "Where did you get that?" Rhea whispered. "The owner's daughter kept everything," Jeffrey said quietly. "She gave it to me last night." "You helped her?" Kirk turned on his brother. "Your own family?" "This isn't family," Jeffrey shot back. "This is toxic control dressed up as tradition." Morgan stepped toward me, but Madeline moved between us. I have a security system and cameras everywhere, she warned. Don't try anything stupid. You're making a mistake, Rhea said, her voice trembling. We can make your life very difficult. More difficult than you already have? I held up my phone. One click and this goes to every news outlet in the state. Your choice. The room crackled with tension. Kirk looked lost, Jeffrey determined, Madeline ready for anything. But it was the fear in Rhea and Morgan's eyes that told me I'd won. What do you want? Morgan finally asked. Complete independence, no interference in my life or career, and you're going to quietly pay back every person you've destroyed with your little allergy scam. That's blackmail, Rhea hissed. No, that's karma. They left one by one, first Morgan and Rhea, then Jeffrey with a quiet, I'm proud of you. Kirk lingered at the door. Is this really how you want to end things? He asked. I thought about the bright-eyed man I'd married, now replaced by this stranger who couldn't see past his parents' manipulation. You ended things long ago, I said softly. You just didn't tell me. After he left, Madeline hugged me tight. Are you okay? No, I admitted. But I will be. My phone buzzed with a text from Jeffrey. They're already calling their lawyer. This isn't over. I smiled grimly. Good, I texted back. Because neither am I. The law office was cold and sterile, matching the expressions of everyone around the conference table. Rhea and Morgan sat rigidly on one side with their attorney, while Kirk slouched beside them, avoiding my eyes. Jeffrey had chosen to sit next to me and my lawyer, making his allegiance clear. Let's begin, Morgan's attorney said, spreading documents across the table. My clients are willing to be generous, despite the circumstances. My lawyer, Sandra, a sharp-eyed woman Delaney had recommended, smiled thinly. Before we discuss terms, I'd like to present some additional evidence. She opened her laptop, pulling up financial records. We've traced a pattern of insurance fraud spanning 2 decades. The shellfish allergy was just the tip of the iceberg. Morgan's face reddened. This is absurd. Is it? Sandra turned the screen. Here's proof of 6 different insurance claims, all following the same pattern. And here are the families whose businesses were destroyed in the process. That's confidential information, their lawyer sputtered. Was confidential, Jeffrey corrected, until I gave access to Bailey's team. Kirk's head snapped up. You did what? Someone had to stop them, Jeffrey said quietly. How many lives have they ruined, Kirk? How many people have they destroyed for their precious family reputation? Rhea's perfectly manicured nails dug into the table. Everything we did was for this family, for your future. No, I cut in. Everything you did was for control, and now you've lost it. Sandra laid out our terms. Full financial restitution to all the families they'd harmed, a public admission of the fraud, and complete separation from my life and career. This is blackmail, Morgan growled. This is justice, I replied. Sign the papers, or everything goes public. Your choice. Kirk, Rhea turned to her son. Are you going to let her destroy everything we've built? Kirk finally met my eyes, and I saw something break in his expression. Did you really fake all those allergic reactions? Just to win lawsuits? We did what was necessary, Morgan said stiffly. Was it necessary to destroy that restaurant owner? Kirk's voice rose. To drive him to bankruptcy? His daughter was my first love, did you know that? We were protecting you from an unsuitable match, Rhea sniffed. Like you protected me from Bailey? Kirk stood up suddenly. I can't do this anymore. I won't. The room fell silent. Kirk walked around the table to stand beside me. I'll sign whatever divorce papers you want, he said softly. I'm sorry it took me so long to see the truth. Kirk! Rhea's voice cracked. Don't you dare! Enough, Mom. Kirk's voice was firm. It's over. Sign their papers. Morgan's lawyer reviewed the documents, whispering urgently to his clients. Finally, Morgan reached for the pen. You've won, he said bitterly, scrawling his signature. I hope you're happy. This isn't about winning, I replied. It's about making things right. As Rhea signed, her hand trembling, Jeffrey pulled out his phone. I've already contacted the first family you destroyed. They're eager to hear your apology. You're all traitors, Rhea hissed, but her voice shook. No, Mom, Kirk said. We're finally being honest. After the papers were signed, we filed out of the office. In the hallway, Kirk touched my arm. I know it's too late for us, he said, but thank you for showing me the truth. I nodded, unable to speak. Jeffrey hugged me tightly. You did it, he whispered. You actually did it. Outside, Madeline and Delaney were waiting. They'd been my rocks through everything, and now they rushed forward to embrace me. Is it done? Delaney asked. It's done. I held up the signed agreements. They'll pay back everyone they hurt, and they'll never interfere in my life again. What about Kirk? Madeline glanced back at the building. He finally chose the truth, I said. It's a start. My phone buzzed with a text from the restaurant owner's daughter. Thank you for bringing this to light. Dad can finally have peace. As we walked to our cars, I heard Rhea's voice behind me. You'll regret this, all of you. I turned back one last time. No, Rhea, the only regret here is that it took so long to expose the truth. Jeffrey and Kirk stood shoulder to shoulder, watching their parents drive away. The family they'd known was gone, but maybe something better could grow from the ashes. Drinks, Madeline suggested. I think we all need one. Yes, I said, feeling lighter than I had in months. But first, I need to make a few calls. There are some families who deserve to hear the good news. The setting sun painted the sky in shades of hope, and for the first time in forever, I felt truly free. The doorbell rang as I was packing the last of Kirk's things into boxes. Jeffrey stood on the porch, holding up a bottle of wine. Thought you might need this, he said, stepping inside. Just got word from the lawyer. Mom and Dad made their first restitution payment to the restaurant family. How are they taking it? About as well as you'd expect. He helped me seal a box. They've basically locked themselves in their house. The country club crowd isn't exactly welcoming since the truth came out. My phone buzzed. A text from Kirk. Signed the divorce papers. They're filed. Thank you for waking me up. You okay? Jeffrey asked, noticing my expression. Yeah, just... I showed him the text. It's strange. I thought this would feel more like an ending. Maybe it's a beginning. He opened the wine. Did you see the local news? They're running a story about Mom and Dad's charitable donations to all the families they hurt. Charitable donations? I laughed. Is that what they're calling court-ordered restitution now? The doorbell rang again. This time it was Madeline and Delaney carrying takeout. We come bearing comfort food, Madeline announced. And news, Delaney added. Remember that promotion I mentioned? The position's yours if you want it. No family connections needed, just your talent. I hugged them both. I can't believe how much has changed in just a few weeks. Speaking of change, Jeffrey said, I got an interesting call today. Remember Kirk's old girlfriend, the restaurant owner's daughter? She's moving back to town. Really? I handed out wine glasses. How's that going? We're having coffee next week. He blushed slightly. Just to catch up. The doorbell rang a third time. My heart stopped when I saw Rhea through the peephole. What do you want? I asked through the door. To talk, alone. I looked at my friends, who all nodded encouragingly. We've got your back, Delaney whispered. I opened the door. Rhea looked smaller somehow, her designer outfit slightly wrinkled, her perfect makeup showing cracks. May I come in? I stepped aside, letting her enter. She flinched slightly, seeing everyone there. I'll be brief, she said, her voice lacking its usual authority. I've been thinking about everything. That must be new for you, Jeffrey muttered. I deserve that. She twisted her hands together. I deserve all of it. The shame, the social isolation, the looks at church. Her voice cracked. Morgan's business partners are deserting him. Our reputation is ruined, and it's all our own fault. Yes, I said simply, it is. I don't expect forgiveness, but I needed to tell you. She took a deep breath. You were right, about everything. We became monsters, convinced we were protecting our family while we were actually destroying it. The room was silent. Even Jeffrey looked stunned. Kirk is happier now, she continued. I see it when he visits. He's dating again, speaking his mind. And Jeffrey, she looked at her younger son. You're finally free to be yourself. Mom, Jeffrey started. No, let me finish. Bailey, you did what I never had the courage to do. You broke the cycle. And while I hate you for exposing us, she smiled sadly. I'm also grateful. She turned to leave, then paused. The restaurant owner. We're meeting with him tomorrow. A real apology this time. No lawyers, no scripts, just the truth. After she left, we all sat in stunned silence. Well, Madeline finally said, that was unexpected. Do you believe her? Delaney asked. I thought about it. I believe she's starting to understand. That's something. Jeffrey raised his glass. To breaking cycles. To truth, Madeline added. To freedom, I said, clinking my glass with theirs. Later that night, after everyone had left, I stood in my kitchen. My kitchen, not Kirk's, not his family's, and felt the quiet settling around me. My phone lit up with a text from the restaurant owner's daughter. Dad's sleeping peacefully for the first time in years. Thank you. I smiled, thinking about all the lives that had been touched by this battle, the families finding justice, Kirk finding his voice, Jeffrey finding love, Rhea finding humility, and me. I was finding myself again. The doorbell rang one last time. It was Kirk, picking up his boxes. Need help? I asked. No, I've got it. He paused. I heard Mom came by. She did. People can surprise you. Yeah, he smiled slightly. They really can. As I watched him load the last box into his car, I felt no regret, no sadness, just peace. Sometimes the happiest endings aren't about winning or losing, but about finding the courage to stand up for what's right. And sometimes that's enough.